This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, it was about to be an intimate, cute bonding moment between a little baby in impala and its mother to start our afternoon safari, but I think the little one hit its mom a little too hard when trying to suckle, and that's caused mom to walk off a little bit. But it is beautiful conditions this afternoon. There's a blue sky, there's a nice cool breeze, and so really good for us to be out and about. Steve and I are going to be on the search for all kinds of things here in Djuma. We're going to be bumbling to try and see if we can catch up with some ellies and buffalo to start with, and then lions and leopards later on. The conditions certainly lend themselves to starting with the herbivores like these impalas, and then moving on up to the carnivores a little bit later as it gets cooler. So we hope that you're all ready for this, your very own live African safari. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sunset Safari on a beautiful Saturday afternoon here in South Africa. It might not be an afternoon in some parts of the world, but where we are, it indeed is. Like I say, the grass is green, the sky is blue, the impalas are seeking shade because it is very hot in the sun. Even though there is a cool breeze, when you're standing in the sun, it feels like you're being roasted. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Impor this afternoon, and we are coming to you live from the Sabi Sands, but not only the Sabi Sands, we'll also be coming to you live from Tswalu today, where they will be looking for spotted hyenas, which will be very, very interesting. We'll also have Ngala that will be out, as well as Pridelands. Now, because we're live and we're coming to you from all parts of South Africa, we would love to hear from all of you. Remember that you can use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, at FC on the YouTube chat, on the website where you can post your comments, as well as any of the other broadcasted streams. You can use the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you guys. The more questions you ask, the more conversations we can have, and the more we all learn. Also, remember that you can become part of the WildEarth family if you join the Explorers page. You can just head on over to the website, head to www.wildearth.tv/explorers, and you'll be able to join that and get kind of insight into all kinds of different things like the fireside chat. Now, I was saying that this afternoon is beautiful weather here in the northeastern corner. We don't have any rain in sort of the horizon. It looks as though it's nice and clear, it's warm, but why don't you take a look at the weather that we're going to have at the various locations around South Africa. Well, it seems like it's going to be beautiful weather across the board. Hopefully, it will lead to a good afternoon of game viewing. Often I find when we get a really nice warm day, and then this with the cool breeze, often it brings things out in the afternoon, and so we should see quite a number of elephants in this part of the world, still with the marulas that are fruiting. And then later on, there's lots to look forward to. This morning we had the Nkuhumas on Djuma. They unfortunately aren't in an area that's accessible with off-roading, but maybe by the evening they come out to start hunting. There was reports of a herd of buffalo that's around. There's tracks for the Talamatis right in the north west. We had 2 Nkuhuma lionesses on Chitwa. We had Tanya and Cub on Chitwa. So there's a lot to go and try and follow up on this afternoon. Hopefully we'll get lucky with some of them, and it will kind of work out for us. These impalas are always nice to stop with. They, you can see, are enjoying some shade, particularly this impala in the foreground. It's kind of got its ears pinned back, and it's just sort of sitting there with the breeze blowing in its face. It's almost like when it's hot and you go and stand in front of a fan or an aircon. You kind of close your eyes and just take it easy. That's how that impala looks in my mind, as though it's just enjoying a nice breeze and a little bit of rest It doesn't seem like it has a little lamb, so it's not been pestered by that. Some of the poor moms that have lambs get hit the whole time with those lambs in the sort of teat area, and it must looks very uncomfortable, and I'm sure it's not exactly that comfortable, because the older those little lambs get, the more you see the moms kind of flinch at the hit that they take from those little lambs. They look absolutely beautiful though this afternoon. All the animals at the moment just look in such good shape. Everybody's looking well fed, healthy, round. We're not seeing much sign in terms of mange. The mange mites don't do well in the wet weather, and we certainly have had a lot of wet weather. So everybody's looking healthy at the moment, and they're feeding well, which is good. It's going to make life harder for the predators, because the more well-fed the antelope species are, or the prey species, the harder they are to catch. Also, in these kind of conditions, often you find young little animals are able to hide better because of the length of the grass. So you find prey numbers should start increasing thanks to the weather that we've had this summer, and actually even last summer. All right, it's not just me out here. As I said, Steve is also on Djuma. He's, I think, headed up to the northwest to go and see if there's any sign of those buffalo. And so we'll send you across to him to say good afternoon and tell you what his plan is.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on board my vehicle as we move from shady spot to shady spot. My name is Steve Falcon. We're joined by Theotainment on camera. And indeed, we are always and thoroughly excited to have you with us this afternoon. Now, buffalo arrived in sometime this afternoon. They went across for till access. Let me show you on the map, shall we? Okay, we had buffalo coming in here, straight across up towards Sydney's Dam, and they've come straight back again, and they're now here somewhere. So we're just over here, and we're going to have a look where they've come out. They're either going to come out on Aubrey's Road, or they're in the block. And what's nice is that we're on a crest, so there's a very good chance we might be able to actually find some off-road driving access. But what's exciting about buffalo being on the property is that they're here to mow the lawn. I was talking about the garden service. Not everybody, they've arrived. But the good thing about buffaloes arriving is also the amount of food that they provide for our lions. So they're in here. If they don't come out, we will find them. They are, in all honest opinion, the easiest of the big five to track down. And if I don't find them, then I can go home with my tail between my legs. But I will. They're in there. I didn't want to go missioning from the start. They might have gone further than we think, but they normally have activity hours where they drink and then go bed down, so I'm pretty sure they're quite close. But we couldn't smell them, and we couldn't hear them, and we couldn't hear the ox peck. So I'm just going to go around and just double check that they haven't crossed, because if they have, then I'll have wasted my time hanging out over there. So exciting times. But if you missed the show this morning, we did manage to track down. Jasmine, you want to see a buffalo wallowing in the mud? Well, we left that grumpy old fellow. He was at Sydney's Dam just now on his own, the same grumpy old fellow we saw this morning. And the herd came and drank and said hi and then left him there. So he clearly isn't in the mood for hanging out with any other buffalo. But, he's retired. So we've left him, but if need be, we can go back there and have a look at him. He was looking very upset with life this morning. But we did track down the Djuma Pride this morning, but they are not going to be at all visible. But we'll track down these buffalo, and then from there we'll see what the lions are doing. They're in the middle of a block, no off-roading there. The access is way too saturated. But you never know, they might come out a bit later, or elephants might go in and chase them out. These things do happen. Or they might find they want to drink from Chelapan rather than the muddy wallow, which I would prefer to drink from Chelapan than the muddy wallow. A couple of the cubs were born in Chelapan. So back to the roots. So I think we're going very, very far around, but this is the road. If they don't cross this, then they're in there for sure. And then we go find them. Okay. Rosalind, lions take down buffalo very carefully and with a lot of physicality. And essentially what they do is they have to jump on the backside, the rump, and they try and pull the buffalo down, try and get the back legs on the ground. Once the back legs are on the ground, the buffalo is much easily subdued. But until that happens, that time Dave was with me, Darby was with me on the vehicle, we saw the unkumas on the back of a buffalo. There were two on its back and it was running, and there's two lions on its back. Buffalo is very big and the lions have to get it from the back, otherwise those horns, those formidable horns, are very dangerous. I've seen lions thrown 10 feet in the air from a buffalo horn, and yes, the lion died. So buffalo is not something you want to tackle with. And the thing is that they've got to isolate one from the herd. They've got to pull it to the ground and kill it before the herd can help, which is hard, which is very hard to do, but it does happen sometimes in the chase. The buffaloes run, and then the herd leaves an individual behind. Maybe it's an individual that doesn't have a very high rank. They also will often try and go for calves. Sometimes they'll pull a calf down, and while they're trying to kill it, the herd keeps coming back and keeps coming back, and they might even push the lions off the calf, but by that stage they might even have killed it, which means that them pushing the lions off, the buffalo can't get up again. But I've seen buffalo survive quite tragic lion attacks and come out with a few scars and a few very cool stories for their friends. You see this over here and this over here? That was from the Lion Bride. Okay, so this is a very nice game path over here. This game path goes directly towards Sydney's Dam, up in the north. This is a path that we often follow for our lion and elephant, as well as rhinoceros. And there's actually rhino right there, rhino track dragging. There's a double rhino track right here. There's often a big one animals will pass through. So if I walk that would take me straight out to the northwestern corner. But I'm not going to walk it right now. We're going to just drive around a bit more, see if we can smell them. We often can hear the telltale signs of but I think they're all in the shade right now, sleeping, because it's very hot. Isn't it, Theo? It's cooking. Even when we stop for a moment in the sun like that, it's like... Okay, very good. Well, I'm going to send you back on down to Tristan and see what he's getting up to.
Well, hopefully Steve will be successful with the buffalo. It is amazing how strong those guys can be when it comes to having a whole pride of lions on their back and then still getting away and surviving and, you know, healing from those wounds that they get. Really is quite amazing to see. All right, we're just going to quickly pop in. It's not really a good time for the hyena den. I said it yesterday, but it was active at this time, so we'll try again quickly just to see if there's any sign of them, because we're in the area. We'll kind of have a little sit with them if they are here. Yesterday was fairly busy, but it really requires an adult to be present. If there's an adult here, then the little ones are out and about. They normally sit on the right side of the den because that's where the shade is. The left side of the den, or the north-facing side of the den, gets hit with sun at this time of the afternoon, whereas the southern-facing or south-eastern-facing side is a lot shadier. Don't see any sign of them yet. Like I said, I'll be surprised if they're very active again like they were yesterday. Yesterday was a bit of a surprise to have them out at this time of the day. And remember, like I say, is if it's not for the adults being around, you're not going to see much of them. And this morning, what was interesting is where the lions had walked, there was hyena tracks everywhere, and the lions are not far from here. They maybe about 200 meters into the block. So maybe hyenas are on lion duty as opposed to den duty, where noises will be made by cubs. There's nobody out this afternoon. Everybody seems to be inside. Funny enough, there's not even anywhere where they've been lying on top of my vehicle track from yesterday, because we were parked here yesterday. It looks like they haven't been out much since last night. There's a lot more tracks yesterday here than there are today. All right, so we did come past just to have a little quick look. Like I say, this isn't typically hyena time. Early mornings, I find, for hyena dens are really the best. That's when you get the most action, because often there's a carcass that's been dragged there. There's, you know, the females coming back after a day of looking around, and they check and see if there's anything. So mornings for me typically are the best hyena viewing times at the den. Abigail, do I have a favorite hyena? In this clan, or just in clans in general? This clan, I would say probably, I like Corky and Intima just because she kind of came out pretty much when I started, so I feel like I've kind of been here with her whole way, which is quite interesting. It's just a weird concept to be kind of part of hyena's life, or watching hyena grow over the years. I mean, it's not like I spend a lot of time with hyenas. It's not really much opportunity to spend a lot of time with hyenas. The girls typically are on it all the time, so I've kind of taken a step back from them in a lot of respects. But Intima and Corky, I mean, Corky just because she seems to just be the ever-living. She can just take punishment all the time and somehow manages to survive. I don't know how she does it. Any hyena that can escape brush of death with the male lion, where he's actually physically got hold of her and biting her, I'll take my hat off to, because that's no mean feat. So I think those two would be my favorites. I mean, Ruben's pretty cool in terms of her story, and from a fascinating dynamic point of view of how she rose from the bottom to the top, and seeing how she was getting bullied at one point to how she's now on top. Also, it's a pretty amazing story. So yeah, I think I would, but I think Corky and Intima would be mine. I used to like Pretty a lot. She was beautiful. She, as far as hyenas go, as the name would suggest, she really did have a beautiful, rich colored coat, perfect little features. She was actually a very cool looking hyena. So I used to like her a lot, but unfortunately we know that didn't end that well. Although you never know, maybe she didn't kind of have to worry too much. Maybe she didn't suffer too much. Well, I hope not. Often when hyenas get killed, it's a pretty gruesome way to go. They take a bit of a hammering. Alright, so nothing at Treehouse Dam either. I was hoping maybe we'd get some Ellies. It's a bit hot even for the Ellies, I think, in the sun. I think the Mulawati is going to be a much better bet. So while we go and scratch around, let's send you across to JP at Pridelands to say good afternoon.
I'm coming into Buffalo now. Can I come and join you there? Yeah, you're more than welcome on this. Jacob Boy Static, stand right next to...
Good afternoon and welcome to Eco Training Pridelands. My name is JP. Good afternoon and welcome to Eco Training Pridelands. My name is JP LaRue, and behind the camera we've got Gerrit. At the moment, we're just admiring a build-up of a beautiful cumulonimbus clouds that are building up from the south of us. These clouds can range anywhere from a few hundred meters above ground level to as much as 17,000 meters above ground level, close by to the tropics. They generally flat base and have quite large vertical build-ups, and then starts developing a little anvil to the top. One of my favorite clouds is they can produce spectacular thunder showers as well as lightning storms, which I quite enjoy. Hopefully they will bring a little bit of relief in terms of bringing the heat down in the low veld and making it a little bit bearable, as it's currently over 28 degrees Celsius with quite a high humidity. Our plans for this afternoon is just to take a slow little bumble and go and see what we can go and find. We're going to sit here for a little bit longer, see what weather is going to get up to, and then from there on continue. And meanwhile, you can enjoy the beautiful clouds that are developing in the distance. We're going to start continuing our journey, and in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Carl and Tswalu.
Well, what a wonderful sight we have to start this afternoon's safari. There's actually two. There's one in frame there at the moment. And they are sitting dead still, obviously using their cryptically coloured plumage to blend in with this beautiful camel thorn, providing great protection and as well as cover and a bit of shade. Now, it's fairly hot today. Good afternoon. My name is Kyle. Behind camera is Craig, and thank you very much for joining us here at Tswalu Kalahari. These are two young juvenile spotted eagle owls. And I know the spot because they were using a nest site that was obviously provided by sociable weavers. Sorry, Craig, can we just get onto this nest over here? So we were speaking about the immense weight of these nests, and now, through the period we've just gone now, of these heavy rains, these nests soak up a lot of water, and that obviously increases the weight, and that puts a lot of pressure on these trees, although they are very, very strong. This nest, 4 days ago, was actually attached to that tree, and unfortunately now has, for the excess water within it, has now been pulled to the ground. Birds will claim a bit of material from that nest on the ground and try and rebuild. You can see to the top there, they are starting a new section, and hopefully they'll rebuild quickly. But these spotted eagle owls found, the parents found the nest site on that sociable weaver nest. They found a wide range of nest sites, cliffs, buildings, even on the ground sometimes. And then here at Tswalu, we find them quite a lot utilizing these sociable weaver nests. It is a perfect site to house and obviously rear these young developing chicks. You can see from their plumage, it's quite fluffy, very, very rugged and very tatty at the moment. And that's because they are losing their almost young coat, their nestling coat or their fledgling coat, and they're starting to develop juveniles onto adult feathers now. So birds have a set of downs, or a coat called downs. It obviously insulates the body, and they're starting to lose this fluffy young coat, so to say, or plumage, correctly termed. And still reliant on the parents, looking at their size and their structure. And haven't moved far from the original site. But a real treat to see these young ones. And we were on a drive a couple of days ago. We did one night drive and we counted 12 different owls within a space of 4 hours doing a nocturnal drive. And just the abundant food source at the moment, obviously the increased grass, rodents then take hold of that, they have babies, and then these birds will actively breed. They breed any time of the year, mainly through the summer periods. You'd find a large abundance of them breeding. Craig, can we get onto the one on the right there? It's a little bit dark, but this bird is displaying quite remarkable behavior. So when birds are very, very hot, I'll just wait for him to turn around and then I'll point something out. So all months except for March, they would not breed, and then all months of the year, these birds, if they have a suitable nest site, available prey, they will breed. Usually 1 to 2 eggs in a nest, but they can have larger clutches when available prey is at an abundance. But very beautiful to see these young ones. And they perform a very important role under the cover of darkness. So if you look, you have diurnal raptors. So if you look out here in the veld, we'll have the dominant raptor out here would be the pale chanting goshawk. And then if you look at the ecosystem, you'll have individuals basically utilizing the area, but at different times. And this is where you'll have species specializing in different periods of a 24-hour clock. So the pale chanting goshawk focusing on a wide range of prey during the daytime, and then on the onset of darkness, these birds will then take over that role, and well adapted to that. So we are meandering east this afternoon in this fairly warm, humid day. Got quite a lot of cloud cover to the north and northeast of us. And we are going to be visiting a few pans and looking in all the shady spots.
My favorite animal is a leopard, purely because I just think they are just the epitome of feline grace and power, and the way they can move about in any environment and remain hidden until they want to be seen, I just find incredibly intoxicating, and they're amazingly beautiful.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique WildEarth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient quartzites Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with WildEarth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all WildEarth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply. If you love to watch WildEarth, then we are inviting you to join our Explorers program. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic WildEarth expeditions, join our guides for a chat around the fire, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn allows us to escape into nature every single day. In a world full of upheaval, we all need a quiet and safe space to breathe. A place where anxiety and stress don't exist. A place where life carries on as normal. Escape to nature with WildEarth.
As you can see, we're staring at a puddle of water at the moment for no other reason than that we had a warthog family that was here. They didn't look too perturbed by our presence. They kind of just went into the grass slowly. It's a female with 3 little piglets, and I've been seeing her a lot, and every time I see her, I try to turn off and just sit with them so that they start to get more and more comfortable around the car, because our warthogs mostly run away. They are not hugely relaxed in this area, and it's mostly due to the fact that they don't get a lot of attention from vehicles, coupled with any time that that the vehicle is around when it's winter or drier conditions, then we find that there's a leopard close by. So they've associated, there they come, they're popping out in front of us here. They associate vehicle with danger, and they are very, very, very aware that a vehicle could be following something like a predator, and that they need to be careful. But Mom is getting better and better. This is the closest I've managed to get to them since the cyclone. I've been seeing them almost daily since the cyclone. And so I've just been kind of slowly edging with them closer, spending time. Even when they run away, I just park the vehicle for a little bit so that they realize that we're not chasing them. And it's a kind of slow habituation process of a warthog. You can see the little piglet just starting to come out behind. And they're also getting a lot braver. Look, you see how it's coming out? And you can't say that a little piglet isn't cute. There's little warthog piglets. They're already double or tripled in size from when they were born. But they are very, very cute. Peter Pan, the reason they're called warthogs is because of the warts on their face. Difficult to see in a female, but if you look between the eyes and the nose, there's these little warts that come out all around the eyes themselves. And so those little structures that come off of the face resemble warts, and therefore the name is kind of stuck, warthog. Now, those are not there for show or just because. Those are there for a very good reason. Those little warts are protecting these guys, particularly the eyes. So when they're fighting and the tusks are clashing, the eyes are protected by these two protruding little warts. And in the males, the extra set between the eyes and the nostrils are just also helping with, if those tusks slip, there's no kind of damage that's going to be done to the eye area. The warts will take the brunt of the damage. And you can't even see them in this long grass. They've come all the way to the left here. They are sort of coming to the point of that water. It was the last I saw them. I wonder if Mom will make an appearance at the water and they'll do a little wallow for us. No, I can see them moving now. They're at the base of that tall apple leaf in the background of the pan. All right, they're slowly moving off and away from us. But like I say, these are all exercises in trying to get them better and more used to us. Eventually, they'll get to the point where they don't worry if we keep doing this every day. But talking about animals that aren't too worried, let's send you across to Steve. He's got a whole herd of them that generally don't care too much for the vehicles.
Well, thanks, Tristan. We did find the buffalo. And they were quite close to where I initially had their tracks going in to this block. But we did do a big loop around to see if we could find them. But they didn't come out that other side. So we came back, and they weren't far away. They wouldn't have gone far. They had a drink. They would have gone and found the closest bit of shade possible. And we're enjoying a little bit of shade ourselves. There we go. They're all over the place. I think it's a very big herd. Very big herd of buffalo. But what I love about their movements is that they move in sort of like a flower petal-like motion, sort of like figure of eights. They go to the water and then they come back again. They try not to utilize the same area twice in the same sort of time frame. It's a very important ecological sort of movement or ecological function out here. Buffaloes need to go to water, sometimes twice a day. And when they go to the water, they do this big sort of arc. They go there and they come back a very different route. So that when they end up moving away from the water, they find themselves in an area of different grazing, different feeding. But at this time of day, you'll often find them doing exactly what they're doing now, bedding down. They have peaks of feeding in the early morning and in the afternoon and even late at night, whereby they can fill their belly with food and they can go and sit in the shade just like this and regurgitate and maximize the potential of that vegetation that they're ingesting to be digested. Very, very poor digestive system. I mean, in the fact that they require enormous amounts of water. So they're not very water efficient. Buffalo, not like many of the other animals we come across. Giraffe, for example, have got very well reduced moisture in their dung, whereas buffalo, they just splatter out huge amounts of moisture, which makes them very dependent on water. Joy, you love their hairstyles. Okay, well, it's not really a hairstyle. He's wearing a helmet there. I suppose everybody's got a hairstyle under the helmet. It's called helmet hair. Let me move forward a touch. Maybe we'll get a couple more. I'm going to sacrifice myself into the sun for a little bit. Let's get this lady on the left here. She's got an interesting... Which one? You want to get him? There we go. He is a beautiful boy. Bubbles, I'm not certain on the exact amount a buffalo will drink, but in one go, in a very short period of time, they can take in 36 litres, which is an enormous amount of water. I think I probably don't even go through that in a week, and they do it in one gulp. But they can walk in, they sort of drop the lip, they drop the diaphragm, and it just gorges themselves with liquid. That's a strategy, of course, of drinking quickly to get away from the watering hole, because being by the water is potentially dangerous for them. As we know, predators like to lurk close to and around. But these fellows are being very shy today, and it's understandable. It is very warm. Now I can go back again because they've moved back for us. I keep trying to get a facial shot. But it's hard to say how big this herd is. I think they are pretty decent in size. How's that, Theo? Good. Okay, so some very prime breeding buffaloes here. These big bulls go through lots of sort of pressure in the herd. They're constantly jostling with each other. There's huge pressure amongst them for the mating rights to the females. But in so doing, they also develop quite strong bonds with each other, these bulls. And that's why when eventually they retire, you'll get a group of 10, 15, even 20 bulls moving off and forming a retirement group of dugger boys, which is basically the local word for mud. Dugger is mud, so they cover themselves in mud. You often find them in and around water, and they just retire. They give up on the pressures of the herd, give up on the pressures of having to fight and jostle and compete. And slowly but surely, those individuals away from the protection of the herd, like the one we saw this morning, get whittled away one by one until they're all gone. Okay, well, we're going to send you back over to Tswalu Kalahari, who I believe has got an owl.
Well, we have found there is 3 young spotted eagle owls within this beautiful camel thorn. One does look a fairly bit darker than its siblings. Very nice thing to see young individuals like this. Shows that the ecosystem is flourishing. Lovely to see, because you can see from the pattern and the coloration of the plumage of these birds, you can see how important that color scheme is. So when you're sitting and resting through the daylight hours, you don't want to be seen by other animals, other birds, because you'll be mobbed. Obviously, a very common behavior displayed by birds and other animals, mobbing. And that's to deter a predator such as this. So this cryptically colored scheme allows this bird to blend in to its resting site. And you can see just the general appearance of what you're seeing there is obviously the light shining through at different spots. There'll be shadows casted at different spots, and that cryptically colored plumage allows this bird just to blend in to that scheme of the camel thorn. They'll still be here for a couple of days. chicks generally leave a nest at about 30 odd days. Obviously it would vary, 30, 40, it's not written in a book. So when I say dates and gestation periods, it's always a give and take. It's not all set in stone. But generally about 30 odd days they would be at a nest site, actually at the nest site. And then these guys would still stay around there 4 to 6 weeks around the site. Obviously still relying on the parents. And quite remarkable, we're busy talking about on the vehicle now. If you ever have an owl nesting near your house, it's remarkable. Take a look under the nest site. You would find these dark pellets. Obviously, once again, just being cautious with it. It is fecal matter. But these animals swallow prey whole. So when they receive a prey item from the parents, especially a little rodent, that's predominantly what they eat. In the younger stages, they eat rodents, they eat insects of various kinds, and then adults go for prey up to hair size, which is quite a large prey item. And obviously got the tools necessary, the talons and as well as the beak necessary to harness that prey. But when they capture small prey like a small rodent, they actually swallow the rodent whole. And the body will digest what it can. And then later the animal will then regurgitate a pellet. And this pellet actually is containing the full skeletal structure of that little rodent that bird has eaten. So you can dissolve all the stuff around it and then obviously clean it correctly. Obviously the right method and the correct protocol should be taken. And you can actually put that little skeleton back together. You'll have a complete skeleton of a little rodent. Julia, the eyes are incredible. And that's actually a way on how we ID this very abundant species. So if you look at spotted eagle owl, they are by far one of the most widely distributed owls in South Africa. There's another owl in South Africa that is referred to as the Cape eagle owl. It looks very similar to this, but the irises, the color around the actual pupil varies. So with spotted eagle owl, you'll find that the iris would be yellow. With your Cape eagle owl, the iris would be orange. A very easy way on how to ID it. I actually find it very tricky in the field under the cover of darkness to ID that of spotted and Cape. But just relying on the iris, it is a fairly effective tool or method by which one can ID it. And those huge eyes obviously set in those sockets. And that's where they use the ability of rotating that head 207 degrees, but then also bob their head. They don't have the ability to focus correctly, and that's why when they focus, they actually swivel and bob their head to allow the eyes to focus on a certain point correctly. These little tufts. These little tufts on top of the head there, very important tools. For a long time, people thought that it was to increase the hearing ability. That is not true. Those tufts on top of the head are aiding in camouflage for this little animal, so breaking up the general outline of the animal's body. Very nifty little tools to keep the animal hidden. One focusing on us quite with a lot of determination. Whew, getting wrapped up in my words. So from the plumage we can see they're not adults. And I'm almost sure that these individuals will still be relying on the parents.
Now, we haven't moved very far. We've got some prime real estate here in a wonderful shady tree with our buffalo herd that are all still just sort of bedding down all around us. What's wonderful is that we parked on the road, so we actually are doing... This is an area I was walking in earlier when I had to look for the buffalo on the other side, that the ground is dried up beautifully. And in an area like this, you can see just in front of that buffalo is a silver cluster leaf, but all behind it, it's all red bush willow felt. And red bush willows are characterized by the top slopes, the crests, the ridges of these areas. And so, for the most part, these areas will be the first ones to dry out. Obviously, where you see silver cluster leaves, like what is in the front of frame there, always got to be quite careful because they are indicators of seep lines, but doesn't necessarily mean that there is water there. But this time of year, it's possible there could be some. So we haven't had to make any decisions yet. We can just sit here, just on the road. We're on the fire break road with the north. The buffalo didn't get too far from the water. There's a good chance in the next little while they'll get up and start feeding again. Definitely seems to be some activity. Tony, I don't know how many calls they have. They definitely do make a lot of noise. But exactly how many different calls they make, there's the normal meh, which is a typical cow sound. And that is translated in so many different ways. There's also the bellow when they're getting attacked. There's a proper loud bellow that they make. And there's also the sort of the big huff and puff that they do when they're pushing each other around. So very typical cow sounds, very typical cow sounds. And obviously they probably speak quite a deep and meaningful language. But I don't know how many different vocalizations they make. They all sound rather similar. But this herd spreads all the way out into the bushes beyond. And there's oxpeckers going crazy all the way through the bushes past these buffalo. So I'm guessing this is a decent sized herd. By the tracks and the amount of dung that they left on the road, it is a very good chance. And it amazes one how these animals can hide in these thickets. I mean, if we didn't see these from the road, we wouldn't have known they were here. There was some right next to the road, so we would have had to require a little bit of delving to have found them if they were a little bit further in. But thankfully, they weren't very hard to find at all. Normally not the case anyway. Okay, so the feeding is starting. That's a good sign. Hello, Kat. You want to know why buffalo stand motionless and stare at us intensely? Well, the general saying amongst guides is that you owe the buffalo money. That's the look that they give you. But it's basically what buffalo do. I mean, first of all, they got very expressionless faces, but because they got quite a long face and these curved horns on their head, they look very intense. But the buffalo strategy for survival is to not run away, to not run from their prey, or their predator, should I say. And if they do run, they often will get chased. So for the most part, buffalo will stand and stare for the longest time until they feel too uncomfortable and then they run. So that is what they do. It's their strategy of survival. Look as intimidating as possible. And buffaloes on their own will not run unless somebody else runs first. And that staring and standing on the ground is a very, very important strategy. We talk about it with us on foot with regards to lions, because that's really the only major threat buffalo face is lions. It's been a battle for many, 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 many years. And so buffalo know if they run, what do the lions do? They chase them. And we know that as people, we know that as guides, we know that as training facilitators, as trails guides. Number one rule, especially with lions, you do not run. Because if you do run, the lion is going to switch from any other motion or behavior it might have to one of, I have to catch this running organism. And I think buffalo have learned that as well, especially when they're in small groups and especially when they are big and old buffalo bulls, specifically on their own. They will not run until there's enough space, and then when they do run, they normally run uphill. Or if there are predators chasing them, they quite often will go into water, especially if they're slightly injured. But herds of buffalo are a little bit more skittish. And because they're in a herd, they feel like if I run, the lion will catch someone else. So they're much more prone to running than bulls are. Bulls generally stand the ground as a means of energy efficiency as well. They stand the ground, but herds, often bulls will come to the front and they'll defend the herd, moving forward. But invariably, they always run back again, move forward, run back again. But they love to do this stare. This calculating, look at you stare. I love it when they look at you and they've got some grass sticking out the side of the mouth and they're looking at you with that very, very crazy look of like, excuse me? You owe me money? It is quite fun. But the behavior between a breeding herd of buffalo versus buffalo bulls is a very different one. Very, very different one. And I think lions behave quite differently with the two. But we will very likely see some activity this evening, or at least by tomorrow, of at least one of the prides nearby. I don't think that Telematis went too far. They were on the other side of Sydney's Dam into Manuleti, and they probably would smell this herd. They might come back in the night. The Djuma Pride is a little bit further to the south, in the heart of Djuma. The tracks from this morning indicated that they definitely were interested in a giraffe that, well, was a bit too big and fast for them, and they didn't catch it. But they're definitely hungry. They walked some distance in the wet grass. Celtic spike, I don't think so. The Cape buffalo, especially the ones we find here in the Kruger, are prone to TB, bovine tuberculosis, and so the milk wouldn't be suitable for human consumption. There is a very good chance of that being passed on, as far as I'm aware. That's how they create disease-free buffalo, is by getting buffalo calves from buffalo that are diseased and removing them from the mother before she's able to suckle them. That is how they eliminate the potential of the transfer. But it would be very hard, I promise you, to try and milk one of these fellows. Theo, would you be up for the challenge of trying to milk a Cape buffalo? Theo says if it was tranquilized, he would definitely try. But I don't think it would be the most viable of options. They are not domesticated in any way. Even disease-free buffalo around the country, places where people have reared them from young, there have been many deaths of people because these animals are not domesticatable. They are not cattle. But in saying that, around the world, how many people get killed each year by cows or big bulls? Probably far more than anybody really gives credit for. And, well, big buffalo, trying to be domesticated or wild, are extremely big, powerful, and dangerous animals.
Just gotten onto Chitra now, so we're going to try and scratch where we had Tandy and the cub, see if we can get a view of them from this side of the riverbed where we kind of left them. There's a monitor. Sorry, monitor lizard. I didn't see you there until now. Just crossing the road. Lots of these guys around this area because of the dam on Chitwa. You see them pretty much everywhere. And that was fairly pleasant. Nice little surprise coming down the road. you find like Tandy's cub now will be of the age where that will start being of interest is a monitor lizard. He'll start finding them quite intriguing to mess around with and to play. They'll be able to probably keep him at bay for now with a strong whip of the tail or a little bit of a bite on his nose, but eventually he'll figure it out. And as a youngster, when he gets separated from his mom, you'll find he'll eat the odd one of those as life starts to kind of become harder for him. I just wanted to scan here on these rocks quickly just to see if there's any sign of these two. Get my binos out. Sometimes they hide behind the rocks, but I think with the heat of today, I don't think we're going to see them on the rocks themselves. I expect them to be in the riverbed, if anywhere, or on the banks of the river. I don't think we're going to see them on the rocky sections or ledges. Those rocks will be steaming by now, after all the heat we've had today. Just quickly check where I last had them and see if there's any sign of them there. Bit of a difficult area, but we'll give it a bash. Alright, well, we're going to try and find them. Hopefully one of them will pop their heads up as we go through this long grass.
Welcome back to our ruminating female buffalo this time, standing out in the open with a calf behind her of the year before. Sort of December, January time is a peak period for buffalo to be breeding. So that's the first youngster we've seen, but it's not a brand new youngster. It's at least a year old, maybe even more. Probably just a year and a bit. And she doesn't necessarily look overly large, but she does look a little bit round. So it is a time when buffalo will be breeding. They do like to breed in the summer months here in South Africa. In Kenya, they can breed at any time due to the availability of vegetation. But what I do like to do and to draw your attention to is the oxpeckers on the buffalo these days. Endangered Wildlife Trust has put a lot of effort into the re-establishment of yellow-billed oxpeckers into the population, whose population in South Africa almost completely disappeared up until a point, and they are recovering very, very well. So whenever in a herd, have a look, see if you can spot a yellow-billed. I can only see red-billed at the moment. The yellow-billed is basically got half red, half yellow on the beak. The beak of the bill, doesn't matter what you call it. And they prefer to be on sort of the bigger... Oh, there's one in front of us on the road. No, yes, it is. The one in front of us on the road, the yellow-billed. There we go. That's a yellow-billed oxpecker. Very good. You'll see it's half-half. Hello. How splendid. So they are coming back strongly, is it? Maybe I'm just seeing the grass in the way. It's having a little bit of a dust bath. As well, they do preen and cover themselves in oil to keep themselves... I think that is actually just that's a red bill. Sorry, everybody. I got an angle with the grass behind it. A little bit of ant movement on the ground is now getting the dust. Best way to remove oil from the body. They get covered in oil from the preen gland. And if there's too much, sometimes it's nice to get a little bit of it off. You'll notice at the fuel stations, there's always buckets of sand. You always wonder what that might be for. That's for oil spills. Best way to collect oil is with sand. We've got a few bulls hanging down here in the thickets. Ben, age 6, has finally asked me the most awesome question. That means I'm going to be able to delve into my box of tricks and show you a foot. Now, I've acquired a few feet, Ben, of birds that have been killed by all sorts of different means. I haven't killed any of these birds. But oxpeckers have got an interesting foot structure. We call it zygodactyl. I know that's a very, very big word, but don't worry, it's not a difficult word to remember. You don't have to remember zygodactyl. But what it means is 2 toes forward, 2 toes back. So woodpeckers, as well as oxpeckers, barbets, and quite a number of birds have got this type of foot structure. Now, this is the barbet that got killed, and Tswalu dissected this barbet, and here you can see his toes. Can you see there's 2 forward and 2 back? Look at those claws on there. So with that structure, zygodactyl, 2 forward and 2 back, it's for clinging and climbing. And the oxpecker's got a very similar type of foot to that. A lot smaller. This is for the crested barbet, but the oxpecker's got a very similar. So look at that. It almost looks very sort of dinosaurish, doesn't it? So with those type of feet, it's very easy for them to hold on. They've got 2 of them, bear in mind. So it's very, very hard to fall off. So that's why I say it would be quite interesting having an oxpecker jumping around on your body, because those claws, probably a little bit annoying, I'd say. This is for holding on to wood, which woodpeckers and barbets need. Oxpeckers hold on to fur, so they don't need to be as sharp. So I've got a couple of feet in my repertoire of birds I've found over the years and have acquired from very legal and very ethical sources. It's just like collecting animal skulls for educational purposes. I'm not going out there and murdering animals so that we can see them. These are animals that have naturally died. And I think Tswalu actually dissected that barbet on the show, didn't she? But this is a beautiful foot. So there we go, Ben, age 6. That is the type of foot that the oxpecker uses. And so if it holds on, you see the purchase power that it'll have, especially if it clamps down on both. It'll clamp down and hold on. It's got both feet. And that's actually quite painful in our pull. So there's no way it's going to slip off. So that's how they do it. And I hope that was educational. That is just the one type of foot structure. We can show you a few more as we go around. But maybe let's just move up slightly here and get another look at these buffalo. The clouds are pulling in, which is wonderful. Sorry, you want to know if oxpeckers ever land on lions and leopards? Well, maybe once. It's not something they will repeat. It's not something they will repeat. Can you get through that gap there? Or is that... Oh, here we go. Here we go. There's 2 young oxpeckers on this mama. 2 young oxpeckers. Now, you can tell that they're young because they've got a pale beak. A very pale beak, and I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference between juvenile red-billed and juvenile yellow-billed oxpeckers, but considering those 2 are in amongst 2 red-bills, you can assume that they are definitely red-billed chicks. Can we zoom in on them a bit? On the oxpeckers. Thank you. There we go. Those 2 youngsters, you can see them on the top. They're probably freshly hatched. See, you can actually see the feet now. 2 toes forward, 2 toes back. And they're learning the ropes right now. They haven't quite figured out yet how to hang on the edge. That one's actually got the potential. They're moving them 3 forward at the moment. So some birds have that ability to move, sorry about the movement there, to move their toes so that they can assist in the movement. So there we go. Please feed us, Mum. We're just going to hang on the top here. We haven't quite figured out how to move. There we go. She's actually doing 3 forward and 1 back. But for the most part, oxpeckers have 2 forward and 2 back. But clearly they're able to move them so that inside toe can rotate backwards. It's something that we see in mouse birds. Mouse birds are very, very good at changing their toe structure. Can you believe that you can, mouse bird can go 2 forward, 2 back, 3 forward, 1 back, or 4 forward? That's a term, the four-forward, known as pamperidactyl, something we find in our swifts, birds like bats that like to hang. Very beautiful. Nice to see the youngsters. The young buffalo as well, getting a proper cleaning. That adult is cleaning and then going and feeding the chicks, who are learning the ropes as far as how to gain ticks. There we go, watching, going, where exactly do we get this food from? Mum's going to show her. Sugar bits, they don't need to go too far, but generally oxpeckers will roost or nest within sort of reach of water. So the animals come to water, and there's lots of water around, so they won't have to go too far to get food. And they can fly anyway, so nothing's really too far for them. A few kilometers is nothing for an oxpecker. Three forward, one back at the moment. That is generally a normal foot structure for most birds. 3 forward, 1 back. Find it in all of the perching birds or songbirds. 3 forward, 1 back. Okay, well, we might stay with our buffalo for a little bit longer. We might move off, but let's send you over to andBeyond and Ngala to say good afternoon to Tess.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to andBeyond and Ngala, where we have a seriously large bank of clouds building into a storm, and it is dark blue today with a beautiful landscape in front of me at the moment. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide this afternoon here at andBeyond and Ngala on your safari, and behind the camera we have Sebastian today, and we are expecting a little bit of rain, as you can tell. So unfortunately at the moment this does mean that with the weather coming in, we don't actually know how much longer we're going to stay dry for. But it is really good for the animals, it's really good for the predators today. And so that's actually what I am looking for. I'm looking for the Birmingham Pride, the Ross males, and hopefully I get to show them to you. But it's very interesting to see how different the sky looks today. Everywhere that you look is a different type of cloud and a cloud formation. And we have definitely got some rain building. We had a ridiculously hot day today. Well over 30 degrees Celsius, and it is in fact still very hot out. And there's a little bit of humidity building now as well because of the moisture in the air with these clouds building up. And also because there is still so much moisture in the ground. In fact, the Timavati River is actually still flowing at the moment. And it's almost going on a week now, which is quite amazing. It's the first time ever for me anyway, and I think the first time in a long time here at andBeyond and Ngala. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to keep driving. We're going to go towards the storm, which seems a little scary, but hopefully we don't get too wet anytime soon. And I am going to try my best to find you some lions today. So fingers crossed, wish me luck. Let's hope it works. They have been a bit scarce today. But it is quite a beautiful day, and I'm hoping, because it is nice and cool, if we do find lions, that they'll at least be a bit more active and not only catnapping. Hannah, yes, these clouds are quite something. It's actually a little intimidating to kind of see how dark they are at the moment in front of me. And it's quite strange because everywhere else today there was completely blue sky. And yet to look at that I'm driving into at the moment, it's a little terrifying to think that we might get completely flash flooded out here a little later. Try to say that fast. Wow. Tongue twister. But I can actually already feel just moving a little bit, even though it is a bit humid, the breeze is actually nice and cool. So I'm hoping that will really, really help with finding some of those cats. And in fact, we've seen a lot of spurfowls and francolins today. A lot in the road. This looks like a group of 5 that are having a bit of an interaction. This is a crested francolin. And they all look like adults. There are no smaller ones. Looking for some... Oh, nice stretch. Looking for some food on the floor. So these birds in particular spend a lot of their time on the roads, especially in this weather, because it's not so hot. They don't need to find shade. And so where it's nice and open, they can really try and dig for some food here in the sandy patches. But it always amazes me how, you know, even when there's a threat coming towards them, they literally wait until the last second to move. And I suppose it makes sense, because if you have a look at that bank of grass behind them, can you imagine going from somewhere open that you can see what's coming to having to fly into this bank of unknown where there could be an African wildcat or a serval or something waiting, and you have no idea because you can't see through that wall of grass. So I guess it does kind of make sense. Beautiful. They have gone around the corner. I actually saw the tiniest francolin babies I've ever seen in my life today. They were like this big. Literally this big. It was amazing. But I'm going to send you over to Tristan. He seems to have found a cat. So good luck over there.
I found our little boy. He is sitting beautifully on the sand. He's a curious cat, that's for sure, and his demeanor towards us is changing on foot. This cat he wasn't here just now. I walked here all the way along to the kind of point well, just in front of him, there's like a sandbank and it ends in a terminal point, and that's where I stopped. And I heard something moving, but I couldn't see anything. So I walked back to the car. We had tracks for Tundi coming out of the riverbed towards Torchwood. So I just went to check there. Her tracks continue north, and then came back, and he was lying exactly where I was walking. So he's curious enough to come and see, and the fact that he's very relaxed now is a good sign. Yesterday we were talking about it, I think it was yesterday morning when I was talking about it, is that often when the cat sees you on foot, it gets curious, and so when you kind of leave, it goes back to where you were to go and see what you were doing there, and that is a really good thing when it comes to cats and being able to find them on foot. If he's starting to understand that I'm not here to chase him and hurt him, then he understands that we go and we come with a vehicle, and that's okay. It doesn't do anything to him. It's not going to affect him. It's not going to make him in any way change his behavior, and it makes it much easier for us, because when we do walk into a block and we find him, he's not going to run away. He's just going to stay where he is, and then you can come with the car and he'll be relaxed. I mean, you can see he's not in any way nervous or feeling like he kind of needs to hide from us. I mean, he's sitting as out in the open as one could ever ask for. You can actually see Mom's tracks to the left of him, which is what I saw, and I thought maybe it was his, because where I left him, he's not far from here. There's tracks that run on the sandbank to the left, so you'll just make them out, kind of moving down that left flank there. So I wonder if, those are the tracks that I saw, and I thought maybe this is him. I couldn't see them nicely because there's a whole river between us and those tracks. But evidently it's Mom, and he is still here. And she's gone, like I say, much further north into Torchwood, up towards First Rock is where she's heading, and he has stayed behind, which is pretty typical. It's also doing exactly what we thought he would do, is lie in the wet sand, given the heat. It must be nice and cool on that sand. The only problem with the wet sand is it gives his chin a little wet, tufty, kind of dirty look. When he had his head up now, I noticed his whole bottom of his chin the fur's all matted from being wet. He obviously has been lying with his face in the water itself. It's a cool sight, though, with the water flowing past, isn't it? It's not something we see at Djuma a lot, because we don't really have rivers, so we don't often see moving water next to our cats. This is quite a treat to have a flowing Mulawanini and a leopard in it. Incredible. Isn't it also amazing how attentive Thandi is as a mother? You know, the day before the cyclone hits, in fact, that evening, he was right where he is now, just a little bit south of this, in this riverbed. The cyclone came along, this whole thing flooded, so where I'm sitting right now, I would have been underwater, and so would he. She moved this cub all the way to First Rock, where he was during the cyclone. First Rock is much higher. It's a nice big rocky dry outcrop, means that they can get out of the way of these raging torrents, and as soon as it calms back down again, she brings him back to where, you know, it's comfortable and where she likes to leave him. It's amazing kind of mother display from Thandi. She's very good at working out where she needs to move her cubs in order to keep them as safe as possible. I'm always fascinated at how she does it, and the time when she moved Kalamba around to avoid Hukumuri is still one of the most fascinating insights into the life of a leopardess that I think I've ever had. It was incredible to watch her go about her business, the way that she kind of was ahead of Hukumuri in every move. He would take one step and she would kind of take two, and she would always just be ahead of the curve. If it wasn't for that, Kalamba surely wouldn't have survived. I mean, Hukumuri was actively looking for them. He would be on their tracks, nose to the ground, follow, and she would do everything she could to move that cub around. She didn't keep it in dens for long. Her whole denning behavior changed, because prior to Hukumuri arriving, for the first 3 months of little Kalamba's life, and yes, that's the most vulnerable, she only used, in fact, it was 4 months of her life, she only used 3 den sites, and those 3 dens were occupied for quite long periods. The one in the Mulawati, I think, was almost 5 weeks that she kept little Kalamba there. But as soon as Hukumuri arrived, the den sites would change every 2 to 3 days. She would be moving it to the next den, and sometimes even daily. If he was around and he was vocalizing, that cub was shifted and always in the opposite direction that he was vocalizing. So she just bounced this little cub around until she felt like she was in safe enough distance. And then she would kind of keep it there, and using really dense, really thick, really difficult to get to areas, which would have made it hard for Hukumuri to trace the scent easily. And also when she was at the dens, I used to watch her leaving in different directions every time. She never approached or came or left at the same direction. She used to go away and come from another angle, and so that means that scent trail was never becoming kind of well-trodden, and a path was developing. It was always random. She wouldn't walk on paths. She wasn't walking roads a lot at the time. I remember chatting to Herbie, who was a guy that we had that helped us with tracking at that point, and he was saying that it's amazing how she would change her whole behavior to suit the conditions. There's a car approaching. I don't know if it's one of the vehicles from our side or from the east. I haven't yet called in on the eastern side. I called some of our vehicles because this morning a lot of the guys were coming to see him and they weren't around. Buffett, yes, he can hunt on his own at this age. He's old enough now to be hunting small birds like francolins, lizards. He'll be able to hunt, things like small duiker would be, scrub hares. Those would all be, he's powerful enough to bring that down. In fact, he's probably even powerful enough to bring down an impala, female. But his technique needs work. And so him hunting lizards and chasing birds and squirrels and all these kinds of monitor lizards, frogs, these are all going to stand him in good stead to understand his technique and therefore eventually become the individual that will be able to hunt and be able to figure out a way to hunt the bigger things. So he'll learn lots of techniques from that. He's going to learn how to use his paws properly. He's going to learn how to stalk, how to stay hidden, how to use wind. All of these things are going to come into play once he's practiced enough on the smaller stuff. And so even innocent games where it looks like he's just running after francolins and not really trying, that's all information that's being stored, and he's understanding, okay, the Franklin flies like this, the Franklin does that, the Franklin moves in this direction, and slowly but surely he'll hone his skill. And you'll find with all of these cats is they start to hone in on one kind of particular thing. In this area, it's mostly impalas, but if you look at his mom has really become incredibly efficient at hunting scrub hares and duiker. Like, those are the two things that she targets more than she targets impalas. She's figured out that those two animals for her are big enough to sustain her and small enough to be able to hoist without having to worry about hyenas. Things like big impalas, she doesn't, at her age, have the strength anymore to really get them up straight away, and she's losing a lot of them. So she's now cognizant of how she needs to approach her hunting, and he eventually will start to learn those patterns as well, and he'll start to hone in. So he might start to become a leopard that really focuses on warthogs. He starts hunting only impalas for a while, and he'll hone that technique and eventually get it right. And if that wasn't kind of evidence enough with Tundi, if you look at Hosana, when he was here, you just had to watch the dam cam and work out how he figured out in a dry period, in a very dry year in 2018, that the little dam in front of that camera was the only source of water for a very wide-ranging period. In fact, there was another source of water at Gallagher Pan on the opposite side of the lodge. But what he worked out is that those two pans were the best places for him to find food. And he worked out that he could sit and wait there and be patient, and sometimes he would sit there for days on end, and eventually something will come down to drink, and he'd have his opportunity to chase. And he hunted many things at that dam. I mean, we know he caught a few duiker, we know he caught impala there, we know he chased a Ngala and almost killed it there. So he started to work out, okay, this is the best pattern for me at age, and he'll then kind of grew from there. So this little guy is going to have the same thing. He's going to start to understand where to go, what to do, how to hunt, and what to hunt, and that will all start developing from now, and within 6 months from now he'll be pretty good at catching quite a number of animals, which will be pretty cool. Anyway, we'll sit with him for the afternoon. It's incredibly humid in this drainage line. I'm sure he's happy on his cool sand, but it'll be well worth spending the time with him this afternoon.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle, and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Hi, I'm Damon, and I come to you live every day from andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I think the most underrated wild animal is the buffalo, and I think many people want to see them because they're a member of the Big Five. But then once it's ticked off the list, it's on to go and look for things like big cats or herds of elephants. It's quite a sensory overload, taking in their smell and the sounds of them moving around you.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced, and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a WildEarth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth.
still with a little cub. I feel like he's going to need a name soon enough. Kuchava and Tswalu, I've asked the guys that, where they occur more than, for us. And I haven't heard anything yet. I think it's, because so few ranges on the ground and, with the cyclone and everything else, I don't think really everyone's been that focused on the naming of cubs. It's a really difficult time at the moment for a lot of guides. They are having a tough time of it with very few guests that are coming through the camps now because the Christmas rush has kind of was finished in the South African market, and obviously overseas travel, as we all know, is tricky at the moment. So I think those guys have got more on their plate to worry about than a leopard name at this stage. But they did say to me that they will figure it out. So, I mean, we know with Tswalu's cub, he's got a name already. I don't know why I said Tswalu's cub, but with Kuchava's cub, and so hopefully we'll get a name for him. And then this guy will be next. But he's still got a few months to go. He is not quite one yet. Normally we name them at a year old. So we'll see how that all plays out, and whether or not that's a name that he gets given is sooner rather than later. It's going to be tricky now because I think the guys from this side are going to want to be a part of it, but we've had him for so long in comparison, and I think it will be only fair that the Djuma guides and the Torchwood and Buffelshoek landowners get a chance to name him, given how much time they spent with him. We haven't spent a lot of time until fairly recently. I remember, when was it? When I was here, it was October. He was not really a feature of the landscape. We didn't see much of him at all. And then I came back, I think maybe it was earlier than that, but there was the October, November, there was 2 stints in a row that I did, and we spent a lot of time with him. And then this time, we've also had a lot with him. We've seen him pretty regularly over the course of the last few weeks. I mean, bar the cyclone days where it was raging torrents and we didn't actually go out and drive, and then waiting for things just to settle a bit, we didn't have too much luck. But since before and now today, we've spent a really long time with him, and it's showing. You can see his whole demeanor has changed in the last 4 months. He's gone from fairly, not nervous or shy, just fairly aware, I think is a better way to put it. It pays for a leopard cub to be aware and to understand his environment and understand that big, loud objects are things that he needs to be cautious about, and that behavior takes time to be able to kind of get them used to us. And so since he's started to see that we're not taking kills from him, particularly spending a lot of time with him on kills with mom, I think that's been a big help. And then from that, also just spending time with him on his own, not worrying about driving around too much or how good the visual is, just letting him become comfortable. He's now developed into a cat that, as you can see, is sleeping right out in the open, very, very close to where we are, and has zero worries. And even, like I say, on foot this afternoon, he's been a treat. The distance from where I was standing to where he is now, to give you an idea, that is, I reckon, maybe 10 meters, 8 to 10 meters. So he's really hasn't, he's was obviously clearly right here and then just saw me and came out to investigate. But if you look, I'll put my kind of finger, I was standing right there, and it's very close, that kind of distance. And like I said, we heard something move in these bushes here, but I saw 2 doves kind of fly off and thought maybe it was them just getting caught up in the bushes a little bit. Clearly it wasn't. Clearly it was a leopard. I also thought if it was him, I didn't want to actually spend too much time here. I was going to just move out and then he'll come out to investigate. It's a common practice when you have a little leopard cub around by himself. They get very curious. All right, well, we'll stay here and just enjoy our cub. It looks like he might go southwards. He's obviously spotted something he wants to stalk. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Tessa.
Welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, everybody. So I have found the very lazy Ross males that seem to have eaten a very big meal. And this is the same one that we noticed has a new puncture wound in his head. And you could see it there just above his eyes, literally in the middle of the top of his head. He's got a clean, round puncture wound. And it looks almost like it was a fang. I don't think that was a claw, it's too round.
Sorry about that technical difficulty there, everybody. We have left our buffalo. I was just following up on some vulture activity, but didn't find anything. Buffalo herd came in that way, went back that way, and the vultures might have indicated that Salamatis had come in and maybe caught one, but just a couple white-backed vultures in the same spot can often be a good sign, but they also deceive themselves. A white-backed vulture will see another white-backed vulture, and then they all get there. And then suddenly they're there, and they're like, oh, it cost us energy to get here. We might as well just wait until the Thurbals come back again. Okay, well, we're going to send you back over to Tristan, who's found, or still is, with the little young boy.
Well, we're still with our leopard. He's sat back down again, so whatever it was that was intriguing him is either moved or he's decided he needs to sit down in order to not make... Oh, it's an impala. That's what he's watching. Is it impala or Ngala? Ngala. Wouldn't be an impala down here. I'd be very surprised to see him here. You can just see it right down the riverbed. It's about to cross the river now. In the distance, it's far down. It's not a close thing. It's not like it's going to be right on top of him, and the chances of him even getting anywhere near that Ngala, given the openness of this riverbed, is not great, unless the Ngala kind of cuts behind. There's a fallen over tree there, and the Nyala's going behind that. That might give him an opportunity to sneak along. And we were talking just now about whether he's hunting, but you can see the instinct is there, isn't it? And as soon as he spotted that, he was up, he was watching, he's turned, he knew that if he stayed standing with the Nyala there, he's going to get spotted, so he's gone back down again to try and just kind of keep himself as low a profile as possible. And if the Nyala's head turned towards him, you'd find he'd put his head right down to try and camouflage as much as possible. I wonder if he's not just sitting and waiting to see if more of them come, because generally Nyalas are not on their own, especially female Nyala, which is what I saw. They often are accompanied by others. Maybe he's just watching. I can just see the white tip of the tail of the Nyala wagging behind that bush. That's very cool. There comes the Nyala now. It's feeding on the fallen over tree. Moondust, which of Tundi's offspring resembles Mom the most? None of them, to be honest with you. None of them really have a lot of Tundi in them, in my opinion. You know, if you look at Wabayiza, you look at Bahuti, Kuchava, they all look more like their dads. Particularly Kuchava. I mean, Kuchava is like a spitting image of Mvula. He wants to move, but the Nyala is... I don't know if you guys can see it in the background there. It must be difficult with this overhanging branch, but it's kind of there in that area. I don't want to start or move because the Nyala will look straight at us and give this little leopard away. And we also don't want him to be shouted at, because if he gets shouted at, he's going to go into a thicket and we're not going to see him as nicely as we're seeing him right now. You might just be able to pick up the movement behind there. It's ridiculous that there's one fallen over branch, but that's where the Nyala is. I mean, not fallen over branch, hanging branch. But it's right there. Anyway, the cubs, I mean, they all look more like their dads. So Tamba, even Kalamba, they don't have that much similarity to Tundi. So yeah, I mean, I don't think any of them really have a Tundi-ish look to them. But if somebody had to kind of force me, I'd probably say Kalamba more than any of the others, but even then, not quite. She's a lot fuller cat, very different kind of eyes and faces, not quite the same either. So none of them really look like mom. It's weird, isn't it? In fact, the interesting part is that I think Kalamba, when she was a cub, looked a lot more like Karula, her grandmother, than her mom. If you look at the side-by-sides of Kalamba at a cub at a certain age and Karula at a cub at a certain age, those two look very, very, very similar. Far more similar than what Tandy is. But I wonder now if we're not going to hear an alarm call from this Ngala. There's one or two cars, because we're on the main road. There's not really much we can do about it. There's going to be cars going up and down, so as much as we sit still, it's still not going to change the Ngala's, well, the kind of movement behind us. And the Ngala's looking in this direction now because of the cars. I'm surprised it hasn't spotted this cub. This cub's not exactly hidden. Ah, there it goes. It's just run away. Did an alarm call though, which is interesting. Would have thought we would have heard a shout. Maybe it knows it's a young leopard and doesn't have to worry too much. Let's see if he moves and follows. Megan, you say he looks so cuddly. He is cute and cuddly, isn't he? He's lost a lot of that white, thick fur that he had at one point. He's become a lot sort of darker, and his coat has changed a lot in the last 3 months. Even his ear structure. His ears is very different to what he had previously. His ears used to be long fur that came out, and that fur is all shortened up. Look, he's stalking. This is so cool. I love watching cubs learning. You see what he's doing? He's using the bank now, just slowly to edge himself forward. Very, very cool. All right, I'm going to quickly send you across to Steve because it sounds like he's got something interesting. There goes a puff at everybody. How cool is that? He's a fat little fellow. Was in the road. I almost drove over him. It looks just like a stick. And who said puff adders can't move quickly back into the road? So what I'm going to show you is a little track at the puff adder. This is a very typical puff adder track. Bye-bye. Very typical puff adder track. Can you see this? Called the concertina track. You see it? Here it is again. It's where their body just moves forward. You know those instruments? South Africa call the boere orkest, the guys do this wah, wah, wah. I don't know what do you call accordion or concertina. So their body just moves in this sort of worm-like motion. And he got there. I was coming down here, nearly drove over him, swerved. Theo had a jump. I said, Snake. He started patting away his head, and he turned away and went straight back up. It's warm. So when it's warm like this, you can expect snakes to be active. And they're not expecting these huge open tracts of open space. A puff adder in there, invisible. No one will see him, as you can see. Gone. Okay, Mr. Puff adder. Well, I'm not going to walk there. I'm going to leave him be. I'm going to jump back in the car and we're going to carry on. We've left our buffaloes. We're going to head on and see what the Djuma Pride is up to. What do you reckon? Ladies and gentlemen, shall we go see what our lions are up to today? Okay. Well, we took you away from Tristan and his young boy, so let's send you straight back over there. Well, while Steve looks for the Djuma Pride and had a brief glimpse of a puff adder, which is very, very cool. We're still with our little leopard. He jumped the riverbed, which was amazing. I was very slow on the uptake. I didn't get it. He might jump it again. Look. Oh, no, he's thinking about it, isn't he? He kind of looks like he wants to go across and kind of jump it and see if he can get back to the other side. I think he's having the most fun just by being in this riverbed. I think finding that he probably in all likelihood is exploring and finding flowing water to be of huge amounts of interest. I think you'll find that he likes to kind of jump across these things and play, and the water running is fascinating to him as well. I find that he'll probably be fairly busy. Still watching those Ngala though. I don't think he'll really hunt them. I think it's more curiosity than anything else. I think you'll find that he's going to just watch them and just wait. Now, for some reason, my comms have gone all funny, so I don't know why I can't hear Alton anymore. It's the perils of being down in the Mulwanini system is that, unfortunately, we don't have great radios down here a lot of the time. Paul? What is he saying? Yeah, neither of us can hear anymore what Alton is saying. We have no comms. Well, I have nothing. I can just hear kind of muffled sounds coming from Paul's radio, but there's really no way that we can hear what's going on. Definitely stalking these Ngala though. I'm not sure he's going to get this right. Imagine how amazing that would be if he grabbed one of these Ngala and managed to pull it down in this riverbed. It would be a fascinating insight into his little life. He'd become a little legend overnight if he was able to pull down a Ngala at his age. Most leopard cubs would not be able to do so. It's not unheard of though. Tia also was able to kill fairly early on. She actually made her first kill at just over 4 months old, which was pretty crazy. Alright, sounds like we've got our comms back, but we're going to send you across to Tswalu just to see if we can kind of fix them and figure out what's going on with our radios.
Alright, let's take in some beautiful scenery on the side of the world. There's beautiful bands and folds of the magnificent Olifantshoek supergroup. You can see these mountains were created, they're actually showing you, the evidence is in the picture, that these mountains were created via compression, so the material being squashed together. So where you would take quartzite, which would be the raw material, and then applying an extreme amount of pressure and heat to create quartzite. Quartz, the raw material, and then quartzite is the obviously changed form. But very beautiful vista we have out here. And we decided to stop and appreciate this with you guys. So we've been moving through the grassy plains very slowly. It's fairly warm. We haven't seen much this afternoon. But we always have the scenery. Get lost within the landscape. So from here we're going to move further down south, and then we've got 1 or 2 pans that we're going to visit in this area. Obviously with a lot of water at the moment, going to a pan is not a reliable source of finding animals that we found the other day. But nevertheless, it is a point of reference that we could use, and always worth a try. But I think we should start on, Craig. Let's start at the old trusty steed and let's head down south. We could actually do this in trio. Welcome to Carl and Craig's Eco Tours. As you can see, environmentally friendly, very quiet. Very, very green at the moment. And it's something very special to witness, and how incredible we could be viewing this with you folks, which is just the cherry on top of the cake. We've received a lot of rain, which is going to be much needed. Obviously, it does really good for the tabletop as well. So the water that sits below a level under the ground and then basically accumulates underground. We call that the tabletop. And it's going to do very well for the next couple of months. Got some clouds behind us, and that just makes the scenery in front of us a little bit more dramatic. Instead of just being uniform and just illuminated, we've got these like dark patches, and you can see it to the left-hand side. Just over there, you can see that one section of the mountain being illuminated by the sun, and the rest of it now all being covered by the clouds. That's where we run out of steam. We have to use more conventional methods. Hopefully the technology will be up to standard very soon, where we can start utilizing electric. Obviously be very, very good for the environment. I've heard a lot of stories that animals actually get freaked out about this vehicle not making a noise. Yes, there are leopards here. So prior to Tswalu's existence, there was no sign of leopard. No track, no call, no carcasses, nothing. And obviously when Tswalu was established, this area was protected. And if you think about this area being protected, you obviously would rewild the area, and then from that you would have the introduction of carnivores. Leopards have naturally moved back into this area. We have had a few individuals that we have moved from properties where they've been caught. We've actually moved them into Tswalu and released them on Tswalu to give them the best possible chance. And these mountains over here that you're looking at right now provide the perfect habitat, and as well as a perfect area for them to reside in. So on my rough estimate, we've got anywhere between 10 and about 15 different individuals that roam up and down this mountain range. And just think about that. There being absolutely no signs of those beautiful and very well-adapting animals. And then over the years, they have understood that this area is now safe. And then slowly they have started to move back in. And it is such a treat, because if you think about a leopard is a very adaptable animal, even adapting to human urbanization. Just want to show you this beautiful camel thorn on our left-hand side and supporting a very large sociable weaver nest. It's still standing, so it shows that that tree has definitely got the power in order to support that very large nest. And I mean, that nest looks tiny in comparison to the landscape. Brown-crowned chugger. Beautiful. You can see all the lightish points of reference in that tree. Those are all the seed pods from the camel thorn. Roughly 10 months, give or take, a seed pod will stay on a tree, and then the tree will slowly lose a few in a few days. And obviously that is in aiding seed dispersal. You don't want to drop all your seeds simultaneously. You want it to be dispersed in a relatively steady manner. And those seed pods will become vital point of food source for animals through the dry period coming to winter. So when they drop on the ground, you'll find a common or grey duiker will consume them. You'll find eland, giraffe consuming them off the tree, and that is what the camel thorn wants. They need to go through the digestive tract of animals in order to be in the right environment. So once they go through the digestive tract, the coat gets worn off the seed itself, and then when the animal disperses the seed is in the perfect spot. It's in its own little pocket of nutrients. And from there you have the next generation starting. Really remarkable trees. Largest tree in the Kalahari, and very long-lived at that. Very important ecological role players out here.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, we're in the area where we left the Unkuhumas this morning. Theo reckons he saw something on the other side of the road. I had them in the thickets over here between the two roads in the drainage where there's no access because it's way too wet. But if they are on this other side, we might be able to access them because it's a lot harder, the ground. Anything, Mr. Theo? Theo is scanning with binoculars. He needs to be a little bit taller than the camera is at the moment. There's a big storm on the way, though, in the west. A really big storm coming after a day that's as humid as this one. There's a very good chance. Okay, Theo's seeing something that's not a lion. It's all right. You saw something, nonetheless. Sometimes we see logs, and it's always good to just go, let's double check that that log isn't what I'm looking for. But I doubt they will have moved far in this weather. It's hot, it's humid, it's sticky. If anything, they'll just go from this position to that position. That's about it. But you never know. Their tracks were in the road right here this morning. And then I tracked them. They walked into this little pan system just here on the right. So I walked in there to have a look, and I saw them a little bit further off. But it's very wet here, so there's no access. But maybe they've gone through, they've come out the other side. You never know. Lions don't always read the books, you see. Sometimes they might actually get mobile when you normally think that they wouldn't.
Well, our little boy couldn't stay away. He's decided to come back to visit us again. He's walked halfway. Hopefully he's going to come back to his original position, which would be most perfect if he does. He's still interested, I think, in Ngala's. Somebody said that there might have been a snake at some point on the right side of the bank. I certainly didn't see it. It's possible. There's a lot that goes on here. No, don't go up the bank, though. Oh, there's tails disappearing up the bank. Let's just be patient here. And as much as he wants to go up, I think he's going to come back down again. I think this is just him checking what's going on above him. And maybe those Ngala are turning and coming up on the side of the riverbank. Oh no, he's flopped back down again. What are you doing? Your tail's going to give you away. You can see how expressive a tail is. It's actually a really cool shot. Not because we can't see much of him, but the tail in this will be something that we can all focus on. You'll see how much it moves and twitches. Oh, now he's gone completely. Let's see. He's coming kind of towards us. I can just see him moving under the bush there. Come, boy, come on back down. Incredible camouflage. Look at that. If he doesn't move, you can't see that there's a leopard there. If he were to just sit dead still right now, you would walk right into him and wouldn't have any idea, which is what I did. I had an idea that he was around. I just didn't see him. Come on, come back down. I think this is boredom at its finest. Some thunder that's taking place, which is interesting. I'm surprised that we've got thunder. Hello, boy. You couldn't stay away, could you? Megan, you're asking if the cubs would recognize the father. So likelihood is yes. I'm pretty sure the father, being, we think, Mulawati, has actually spent time with this cub already. The other day, yesterday, day before, I had tracks for big male leopard with these two intertwining. So I suspect that the answer to that is yes. And he would recognize that that is a leopard that's non-threatening because Thandi wouldn't react too much to it. We've seen it with Tlalamba, Hosana, Tamba, and their time with Tsingana, how they were able to go up to him, sniff him, and just generally kind of greet him a lot more than what you would see if it was obviously not the father. This little male is very cute though. What have you got there? He's found something. Maybe a monitor. It's the right place for monitor lizard. Definitely something. Tortoise also could very well be. Terrapin. Those could be something that is in there on the edge of a riverbank like this. Could be either of the above. That face screams naughty though, doesn't it? Are you coming to say hello? Coming to where Mum is? Or are you just coming to investigate us? Are you going to lie right there? Oh, you wanted to come say hello. Hello, boy. It's been a few days since we've seen you nicely. Look at you being an absolute treat. It's like, I'm just going to come and pose for everybody. I know I've been far away. I know there's been a lot of rain. You guys are all desperate for a really good view of me. Let me just come and sit right in front of you and pose and make myself look as pretty as possible. It's so cool. It never gets old, ever, 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 ever. I don't think he's going to sit for long. I think he's just watching us for now. Find that he'll eventually kind of move again. Maybe he'll cross towards us. We'll just have to see. Chris, you're asking how long leopards live for. So it really depends if it's a male or a female. Look, he's playing with the water. Look how amazing this is. So males typically are going to be about 12 to 14 years. Females, they go a little bit longer. They can do... Oh, what have you... Are you just enjoying the water moving on your paws? This is so special. Very cool. I've been wanting to have a leopard in this for years. And never managed. And now you're going to pee in the water. The poor fish downstream, if he poops, it's going to be even worse. Is he pooping? He is too. The little brat. That's not funny. Are you now going to chase your poop downstream? I think he is literally chasing his poop downstream. You silly boy. No, maybe it's a terrapin or a fish, but it could very well be his poop as well that he's chasing. If it was light enough and small enough when they hit the water, it could have floated downstream. And that's why he's kind of gone back down. You silly boy. Mom is not going to be chuffed when she arrives and finds him all wet as he is now. Julia, you say he's so adorable, gorgeous, is this overload? And yes, he is adorable, isn't he? I think he's wormed his way into many hearts of late. I think a lot of you have become quite attached to this young fella. And why not? I mean, he really is a beautiful cat, and starting to get that personality now. We're starting to see a lot more of his behavior. He's starting to really kind of show off and be a typical young little leopard male, which is cool. You see, he's almost like a FOMO. He's like, I'm going down there, but then everybody's up this side, so what do they have? Must I come back and come and see what they're doing? And it's like he keeps turning and looking in our direction. There's a little jump and move. Yes, you are full of sand and full of water now. Mom is going to be most upset. You're going to need a thorough cleaning by the time this afternoon is over. I wonder if he's not going to go to the rocks now and go and lie up on the rocks and out of. It's cooled right down. I think that's where he's going to head. I think that's his kind of safety spot, is those rocks. He likes being on top of them late afternoon, early morning. Seem to find him there quite regularly, but here we go. It's going to disappear behind that grass for now. That's it. We don't know if we're going to get another view of him. We might not. I'll sit here for a little bit, and then if we don't see him or I see him turning, I'm going to go up onto the rocks themselves to try and figure out if we can get a view from up there. And there he's back. All right, so let's see where he goes. I'm going to watch him and just check if he does head towards those rocks. In the meantime, let's send you across to JP, who's at a waterhole.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we're sitting at Buffalo Pan and we're looking at what's coming in and out. We were hoping to find some elephants hopefully coming to drink, but what we did find is 2 lesser moorhen. This is the first time ever that I've actually seen a breeding pair together. I'm hoping that we can find them again. They've just moved out of the sight. If we can just maybe pan a little bit more towards the left, then we might catch up with them. Then just focus in a little bit more. Right underneath the tree there. We're just trying to get closer. We'll get a better view and zoom in back on it. Ah, there we go. And then straight in the center. So what I do find quite interesting is that every year I do find lesser moorhen somewhere, but it's normally not such a common bird species to find. However, in abnormally high rainfall years, they tend to be a little bit more common than in other years. And quite often they will use pans and temporary pans like what we have over here as a nesting site. So generally when we look at moorhens and rails, they tend to be quite laterally flattened, so it makes it easier for them to actually move through the vegetation compared to other water birds that are quite broad in terms of from on the lateral side. There's the female again. So the female is slightly grayer in coloration. How we can identify them is either the grey coloration or a blackish coloration, and then an overall yellow bill coloration with a little bit of red on the shield, which is a part of the bill which touches on the front of the forehead. In terms of their diet, they tend to go for quite a wide range of different insects, as well as mollusks and other aquatic organisms. We're going to spend a little bit more time over here and see what they get up to, and see if we can get a better view, and in the hope that some other animals might come to drink. But in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Steve.
Hello everybody, we've got a woodland kingfisher checking out the scene, and what a beautiful scene it is. The black-headed oriole behind us seems to think so with his calling. the sky and these leadwoods. I know it's not a sunset, everybody, but I'm going to allow you a moment anyway to just reflect on your Saturday, this Catterday of all days. How are you doing today, wherever you are in the world? Send through a one-word tweet or a small sentence at FC, #WildEarth. Just, how are you doing? How are you doing? I'm doing wonderfully well. Feeling super, super blessed. I'm just going to allow you to enjoy this beautiful backdrop. Sugarbits is feeling content. Love Our Guides is feeling relaxed. Manny is also feeling very blessed. I'm feeling very grateful as well as blessed. Almost the end of January. Can you believe it? 2021 already, the first month is gone. I know there's a lot of intentions I put forward for this month that I haven't managed to achieve, and that's okay. I only really started in the middle of the month and getting back into a working routine. I've got to be realistic. A few of them will slide into next month. If any of you have had some intentions or objectives for the month of January that you haven't managed to achieve, don't be hard on yourself. There's no No, nothing can be good about being hard on yourself. Life happens. Life happens. I've been spending a lot of time working on myself lately and haven't managed to achieve all of the small objectives I'd be able to do. That's okay. Lots of things to do for the year. I'm just going to spread them out a little bit more. Barbara, this year gives you a lot of hope. Well, that's brilliant. This year is full of hope. Full of hope. Outside, everything's a bit crazy, but let's all come back to our center, come back to our homes, come back to ourselves. Work on what we can and work on what we have control over. Let the rest take care of itself. No point worrying about things we can't control. Why worry about the weather? There's nothing you can do about it. Put on a jacket. Antoinette, I'm super happy to hear that you're feeling grateful to be alive. All there is now, everybody. Right now. Nothing else. We can't be in two places at one time. We try to in our heads, but it's not possible. Come back to our bodies and just realize we're in the moment and feel what we feel. And if your year has gotten off to a very slow start, that's okay. Honor that. Take rest where you need to. I've been feeling quite lazy lately and feeling quite tired. So sleep is required. If you feel tired, you need to sleep, don't you? When you feel energized again, then the work will happen. The heat does take it out of us. Still trying to keep fit, eat well, smile and laugh, connect with important people in your life. Make sure the ones you love know you love them. Don't wait to tell them. Maybe you've had a falling out with someone lately. Maybe fix that. Maybe it's a very big falling out. See if you can fix it. At least send them, write them a letter. Tell them how you feel. Don't leave things unsaid. These difficult times, rather have said what you wanted to say than not have said it. You will regret that later. Reaching out to a friend in these times and just letting them know you're there. Sending them love and gratitude for being in your life costs you nothing. And that comes back tenfold in love and kindness.
My name is Moritz, and I come to you live every day from Tswalu Kalahari here in South Africa. My favorite thing is probably the predators. And as you can see, we're looking at some of them right now. These are the kings of the Kalahari. Spending time with the cats, it's just a privilege. And I love their behavior. You know, the more that you look at them, just the power and the sheer beauty and elegance of them.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique WildEarth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient quartized Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with WildEarth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all WildEarth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
We have a baby pangolin, a baby pangolin. This is off the charts. This animal is about from your fingertips to your elbow. That's the total length of this animal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is like now my 4th Christmas in a week. We should do this more often.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
We managed to relocate our little boy. He's moved miles in the time that it took us to get around. I thought he was going to be near the rocks, but he went past the rocks already and is generally just milling about, sniffing everywhere. It's been quite cool. He's even flemin grimaced for us, sniffed around where Mom was and had a little flemin where she obviously sent Mark this morning because it was right where the trucks were. Look at how he's creeping out because there's another 2 cars that have joined us. And he's watching them as if to say, what is going on with these cars? I'm not sure he's that convinced about the electric vehicles yet. I don't know if he's gotten quite used to those. You've gotten used to us, haven't you, boy? I mean, he walked right up to the car just now and came and almost sniffed the bonnet. But he's not really worried about... let me just go back quickly. He's sniffing his mom's poo there. His mom... defecated in the road there, so that's what he's busy sniffing at the moment. There he goes back down towards the riverbed. Amazing, isn't it? Hello, boy. You know where he's heading. He's heading towards the lodge. That's where he's going to go. He's going to go and park himself off on one of the decks like he did the other morning. You can see him walking in front of a car there now. And off he goes. I think what we're going to do is leave him here with these guys. I'm not going to follow... We can't follow him any further anyway. It's way too wet where he's heading. And he's far better off than having 3 vehicles kind of trying to jostle for position on the road. We've had a really beautiful sighting of him in the riverbed, so I think it's only fair that we let these guys enjoy and have it. And we will carry on and go and see maybe if we can pick up Mom. You never know. Mom is around, so it's possible. There's always a chance. If we... go into the right area, she should be walking on the roads by now. It's nice and cool. Hopefully, we'll be able to find her.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, we're trying to find the lions and they don't seem to have come out. I'm just going to check if they've gone south here following the other two lionesses. Sorry that you lost Tristan there. What a beautiful afternoon it's turning out to be. Okay, so the two lionesses Tristan followed this morning came out, they went south this way, so okay, well, while we try and figure out where they're going, we'll send you over to Tess, who sounds like she's found some spots of her own.
Welcome back to andBeyond and Ngala, everybody. I apologize for my struggle with signal earlier on. We had the two very, very fat Ross males having eaten a lot, and now we have a hyena following us down the road. I'm just reversing, and this hyena is just coming and coming and coming. I want to try and get a little further away so you can see it. There we go, coming towards us. So this is quite a large spotted hyena, actually. It looks like a very big female, and she looks like she's on a mission. She's walking in a straight line, knows where she's going. I don't know what she's smelling. There are tracks of wild dogs around here, so maybe that's what she's smelling. Trying to keep up with the spotted hyena. Okay, we're gonna have a gap. It's actually quite something. So it's actually quite unusual to see a hyena walking around being active at this time of the day. But I think because it is cooling down, we actually got rained on a little bit earlier, and then it cooled off again. And I think that's why this hyena is actually active. Let's have a look, see where we are going. It's actually literally on our eastern boundary right now. So I wonder, the tracks that we had of the wild dogs were actually going north, which is exactly this hyena's walking in. And I don't know if maybe it can smell them, and perhaps that might be where it's going at the moment, because those tracks were just further north of where the hyena is now, so further on to the left, exactly where that hyena is going to. And I think this one, although it's big, it's actually not that old because its spots are very, very bright. But I can't follow it any further where it is going because it's now off of andBeyond and Ngala's property. But it's beautiful light going from shadow to shadow and through that golden light in between. And it's always so, so lovely being able to see a predator for quite a long time, walking and being active. Not at all like the very full-bellied Ross males that I had earlier, that unfortunately were in a rainy patch. Wow. And you can actually see behind me, there's still that little bit of golden light coming through, so I'm actually sitting just below the sun's level at the moment. But in front of me, that's the last little bit of golden rays of light that are coming in. And it's been a really, really beautiful afternoon, actually. The light has been absolutely perfect, especially for photography this afternoon, believe it or not. But we're hoping that we still don't get rained on again. We got rained on just now. And unfortunately, at the moment, there is quite a storm coming in. There's a lot of cloud buildup in front of me and to the right of me. So from our southwest, which is where our weather comes from majority of the time. So you can actually see there next to the sun's rays that there's quite a lot of cloud bank building up. And it looks quite wispy in front of the sun at the moment, but just where the sun is, you can see a very, very big cloud to the bottom left. And that is part of a massive bank that is very dark blue in color. That's quite a beautiful setting at the moment, and it's the perfect time for more predators to be coming out, whether it's hyenas or maybe a leopard, or even possibly the rest of the Birmingham Pride, because we know that there are tracks of them in this area. And especially if the Ross males both have full bellies, it means that they might have stolen something from the rest of the Pride. But how beautiful is that sun on the cloud? A literal, well, it's a golden lining today, not a silver lining. Horse rider, that is actually a very good question. They are actually part of neither the dog nor the cat family. Hyenas are in their entirely own family called the Hyenidae. So they are completely on their own, and in fact their closest relatives are the mongoose family and actually not the dog or cat family, although they look like a bit of a mix of the two. They've got a snout like a dog and ears like a cat. They're actually more closely related to mongooses and are in entirely their own family and genus. Very, very interesting. They're quite a strange animal, but I think it's to link the two species if you're looking at mongooses and hyenas. But if you look at smaller things like their social structures, their behaviors, their denning systems, those kinds of things are very, very similar. And so that's something that can be used in classification, but obviously it's also been looked at genetically on a genetic level. That is absolutely beautiful. I think that's one of the nicest sunsets I've seen with the clouds, actually. I can actually hear the thunder. Celtic Spike golden hour is by far my favorite time of the day, and it's easy to see why. I mean, it's so beautiful at the moment, and on top of that, you know, this is the perfect time to see predators starting to become active, and those are always a favorite. That is definitely one of the prettier ones I've seen. I don't know if you could hear the thunder just now, but I definitely am hearing thunder in the background. And we really thought we were going to get flooded out just now, and it started raining, but we managed to outrun the storm a little bit, and now it's in the distance, but we will have to head back into the storm just now to get back home. But with a sunset like this, you wouldn't actually say that it's coming, because this just looks too beautiful and peaceful. Although, the calm before the storm, that is what they say. You can hear quite a lot of birds calling at the moment, getting ready for the night's rest. And I'm actually quite close to the riverbed at the moment as well, so that's why there are quite a few. David, it actually does almost look like shimmering water with a reflection. Even though the pattern of the clouds at the moment looks like ripples on the water. It really is beautiful. It almost looks like the bush that's at the bottom could be the shrubbery on the outside of a little pan system or a dam. And the sun could be reflecting off the water quite easily. It's actually always been a dream of mine to be able to photograph specifically a cheetah with a sunset like that in the background, but up on a mound so that the cheetah is actually outlined in a sunset that beautiful. I don't know why specifically a cheetah, but I've always had that image in my mind. So it's on my bucket list. Wish me luck, maybe I'll find a cheetah tomorrow. That would be so wonderful. You can actually see how the clouds are building up there now. As the sun is setting, you can see more and more of that cloud being outlined. And that is just a fraction of the cloud bank. The rest of it actually stretches as far south as we can see. There's actually a bit of a strong cloud at the top. It almost looks like a gap in the cloud, like somebody has taken a spoon and scooped a bit of the cloud out. But it actually, I think, is this darker stretch of cloud. One little dark piece. But it definitely looks like if you would scoop the top off of a cappuccino and it leaves like a mark in the foam or the cream. We're comparing sunsets to all sorts of things today. I love it. Lana, we have quite a few kudus here at andBeyond Ngala. They live mostly along the riverine sections, which means we don't get to see them all together that often. They're often in very thick areas. But an exact count, I'm actually not sure, because we don't have boundaries in a sense that we don't have fences. So the animals move freely. So it would be incredibly difficult to estimate how many impalas we have, for example, or how many kudus. But I would say it's quite a decent amount. We've been seeing a lot of very big male kudus recently with massive horns. And that is quite an iconic species. It's actually the emblem of South African national parks, is the kudu with its spiraled corkscrew horns. Very special emblem, actually. The temperature right now is perfect. So from one stunning sunset to another, I'm going to send you over to Steve with his sunset.
Everybody, well, we're hanging around in the area, figuring out the general direction that the Djuma Pride might follow. I'm having my doubts that they will cross the stream, because the stream's flowing, but we're kind of in the area I thought they might come to. But we thought, look at that sky. We'll spend a few more moments enjoying the afternoon, as I'm sure all of you are enjoying these wonderful images. And while we sit and wait, we can listen for alarm calls, maybe some contact calling. Lions might start calling each other. Lionesses that Tristan had this morning might come back, but it's very still. There's no wind. Just frogs. Mainly the bubbling casino that I can hear. Anushka, clouds are formed through a variety of processes with regards to evaporation. So the temperature of the sun beating down on the earth causes the ground to give off moisture, or even the ocean, or even lakes, water bodies. Cold water in the ocean is less likely to give off moisture because it's very cold, whereas warm water oceans give off a lot more moisture. That's why we get most of our weather from the Mozambican coast, where all that water comes in the form of evaporation, forms clouds, and then pushes inland as water vapor. And as the water vapor accumulates, certain temperatures change with regards to altitude. There's a very specific height in the sky called the dew point. And the dew point is basically a point when if you've ever seen a big storm cloud rolling in, big storm cloud, there's a very flat bottom to it. That flat bottom is the dew point. That is the moment when the water vapor turns to a cloud. So where the gas turns into sort of a cloud that's full of moisture, that's almost ready to drop that moisture. And often that's caused due to the fact that water vapor is pushed up against escarpments and mountainous regions, which then force the air up and then a lot of air going upwards then accumulates together, hitting the same dew point, and then all turning into cloud, which then often pushes back as rain. That's why in places like Namibia and the west side of South Africa, there's not that much rain. First of all, the cold current over there, and if there is any water vapor, it gets accumulated and pushed inland until it hits some form of mountain, and then the mountain pushes it up, and that's what causes it to form big clouds. So big clouds are often caused by many factors. Evaporation, that's caused by huge amounts of heat like we've had today. It's very hot and humid. What that leads to is often thunderstorms, and a lot of that's got to do with the angle of the sun on the earth in South Africa at the moment. It's very straight down. It causes a lot of friction in the air. That friction accumulates and often leads to electricity in the atmosphere, which often leads to massive lightning storms, which are associated with huge rolling thunderclouds. We've actually got one forming on our very far right-hand side, a big cumulonimbus cloud behind us. Watch out for the big spin. So depending on the height and altitude and shape of the cloud, they're all given different names, and that cloud over there is called a cumulonimbus. A nimbus is normally referring to rain-bearing, and cumulo because it's a towering, massive cloud building up, and generally inside that there is electricity because it's caused by friction. So that is often a rain-bearing cloud right there, and if we could see lower down, we'd probably see a very flat base, almost like you've cut it with a cheese knife, very flat. And that flat point is the dew point. If you've ever spent time looking at mountains and you see the clouds forming around the mountains, you'll see that there's a very specific line, and that is the dew point. Obviously, a lot of the vapor goes higher, and the higher it goes, the colder it gets, and some of those clouds are actually frost or frozen. They're not actually moisture holding, they're like frozen bits of ice that are just suspended in the atmosphere. But there's many different types of clouds, all of them described by their height, their shape, and their potential for bringing rain, or what sort of whether they're going to be either bringing or they are precluding. Laurie, isn't it beautiful? Isn't it just splendid to just sit here and watch these beautiful colors taking shape? And in the afternoon, because the sun is setting in the west, that's obviously moving through all this water vapor, because that's essentially what clouds are, everybody. It's just accumulations of water vapor in the atmosphere. And the light through it is just the angle of the sun. And, well, we are super blessed with our ability to discern these colors. And it's happening all the time. In our summer months, we don't really see, in our winter months, we don't really see many clouds. Oh, wow, there's a huge cumulonimbus building up on that side. Let me just move forward. We'll get him through that gap there. See that cumulonimbus through the gap there? Oh, it's like a big mushroom. You got him there? Now that is a huge thunderstorm development in the west. And you'll see there's a few clouds in front of it. Have a look at that build up over there. Now, a lot of that's to do with the accumulation of the moisture from the mountain. And that is definitely going to bring rain somewhere and possibly some lightning. But while we move around and try and find where our nkuhumas might be, Tristan has found a spotted hyena.
As you can see, we've got a hyena that is moving quickly. It's right where we had the lions this morning, and it's walking with much caution at the moment. I would imagine that's because the scent of the lions, there's also scent of Tundi in this area. There's a lot of predators for a hyena to consider, and it's sniffing around in this area. And I actually want to see which way it goes, because that's going to help us in terms of maybe trying to find where these lions went, because no one can find them. They've disappeared this afternoon. But the way the hyena's got its nose to the ground will tell us a direction that they've gone, because he's been sniffing where they were sitting. Then he went to where I last saw them, behind a bush, and checked around there. Now sniffing underneath the marula tree just to see. And we know that Tundi didn't go that way, so it's not that she's tracking Tundi, this hyena, it's that they're tracking the lions more than anything else. You can see they're very alert though. Off it goes, going back up. I wonder if these two lionesses aren't making their way back towards the Pride. It's very possible that they're heading back towards Djuma. Now that's going into Little Gari, so we're not going to be able to get much more of a view. I just want to check quickly the Chitwa cut line from where this hyena came, in case these lionesses went south a little bit. They're not on the dam wall, I know that, because I just spoke to the owner of Chitwa, who just went in that direction. So we know they're not there, so we'll just check a little bit down. If nothing there, then we'll come up and check Gari Main, see if these lions aren't on the move. In the meantime, let's send you across to Tswalu. Hopefully they've got just as beautiful a sunset as what we've had this evening.
Well, finally, the struggle has been real this afternoon. We are very happy to be back with you. We have had some issues this side, but we are back. We are at a pan. We had, there he is. Here's a beautiful little grebe. Just been watching for the past few seconds. Only about 20 centimeters, about 170 grams, a very tiny little water bird. And a little bird that's very prominently seen through South Africa, through bodies of water, just like this here. We've taken a look at the tree where we noted where this individual was creating the nest. It looks like the nest is pushed right up into the canopy of the tree. So either it'll wait for the water to drop, or it'll just start building a new one. And it's that floating nest which they will attach and anchor that floating nest to various plants within this body of water. Beautiful sound of those bubbling casinas. And then the very prominent call from the ring-necked dove, or previously known as the Cape turtle dove. It's just very... Peter Pan, what animals usually come to the watering hole at this time? A host of animals will visit the water late afternoon. You predominantly find most animal movement to be focused around the cooler parts of the day. Midday is a period at which animals will reside, conserve moisture, do a little bit of ruminating, conserving energy. And this is the period that you'd find a host of hoofed ungulates, different antelope from kudu, gemsbok, you name it, would come visit this watering hole, and as well as carnivores. Because when hoofed ungulates are moving, that's when a carnivore would have the best chance at intercepting a potential meal. Craig got us a beautiful view there of a ring-necked dove. Moving around looking for any seeds. That's such a beautiful bird, that. And also another bird, just like that anteating chat, that is very, very commonly overlooked as for it just being an average dove. There's no surfable waves here at this pan this afternoon. A couple of days ago we could have taken a nice right hand, could have brought up the surfboard and caught a wave or two. But it's very still and very tranquil right now. What we're going to do is we're going to try and find you folks a bubbling casino. If we could get one, that would really be such a treat. Sorry, FC, you're going to have to re-go with that message. There was a bit of break-up there. I wasn't able to copy the full message. Can you please resend? What frogs are calling in the background? That is the beautiful call made by the bubbling casino. And it's a very distinctive and very easy call to recognize. It almost sounds like a drop of water, or like a bubble popping, if you want to remember it like that. When it comes to calls, if you have a little reference in order for you to remember, it makes remembering the calls much, much easier. So that is the beautiful call of the bubbling casino. By far one of the most prominent frogs heard on Tswalu. There's around about 7 different species of frog or amphibians which are found in and around Tswalu. And none of them as prominently as the bubbling casino is heard. Especially on the onset of nightfall, you do have a few more species coming out. But these bubbling casinos can be calling through the early afternoon periods into the evening. They become a lot louder as the onset of darkness approaches. And a very beautiful sound. It's my favorite frog call. So we're going to see in one of these little inlets with a lot of water that's come up over the road, and it's made like these little puddles. We're going to see maybe if I can take my shoes off and we're going to scratch around over there and see if we can find you folks a bubbling casino, get up close and personal and introduce you guys to this wonderful frog. It's a little crossing where the water level obviously has reached and has overspilt into this area. And Craig can just give us a view here of the left-hand side here of the water that's spilt right over to the left-hand side of the vehicle. So this will be perfect for frogs, and as well as all other types of insects that use these bodies of water for their larval stages. And there's so many of these little puddles around Tswalu at the moment. There's 1 or 2 videos that have gone viral with the southern parts of Tswalu that are totally flooded. It looks like parts of the Okavango Delta. Obviously, it's a massive floodplain, a very beautiful and very diverse area as well. I'm going to use that there, Craig. Got a lovely starling here, folks. It's actually a pair that's nesting in this large dead camel thorn. Lovely, look at that. Beautiful. Oh, he's got some food in its beak. So that might mean it has some bubbas. So we actually noted 3 eggs in a nest that this bird is sitting on. Same tree, sorry, that this bird is sitting on. and something snacked on them a couple of weeks ago. But it shows that when you have abundance of resources, that if you do lose a clutch, birds will then take the opportunity and give it a go again. Very beautiful bird. Iridescence is where it gets its sheen from. It looks very dark now. It's because there's no light on this side of the bird, which we are viewing from. So the bird looks almost colorless. But once you're in the right angle, or you're from the right side, you have this display of blue, green, and almost like a dark purple sheen to the bird. You can see on the left-hand side of the bird there that there's a bit of a purplish sheen to it. And that is from keratin layers within the feathers themselves that is reflecting the light from the sun, and which gives this bird its beautiful iridescent color. So if you look at iridescence of bird with its color spectrum, or its color spectrum that it sees in, the glassy starling for us looks, an array of different colors depending on how it's sitting, but to another starling, its visual aspect on that bird might be totally different to what we are seeing. And this camel fawn over this, the remnants of it, let's say the skeleton of this camel fawn is a very beautiful scene. Look at that. Beautiful.
Thank you, Kyle. Well, we've done a big loop around. Just taking it really slowly now. I'm almost certain lions are going to be moving soon. But with no wind, there's nothing really to entice them to move. Did say earlier, we're doing our checks that we're only going to start seeing them at about 7. And it is now 7 minutes to 7 South African time. So, are we ready? Are we ready? 2 of the lionesses walked straight down this road this morning. Tristan followed. The rest of the pride, though, is in there. Well, they were anyway this morning. I haven't seen any tracks coming out. They've just been enjoying a very nice lazy day by the stream, which is always a nice thing to do, isn't it? Little picnic blanket, running water. Problem is, down by the streams here in our summer months is an enormous amount of biting insects. So it's something you've got to be quite aware of, even in the middle of the day.
there it goes. We did have a cave. There's another one. Cape turtle dove in frame. Previously known as a Cape turtle dove, now known as the ring-necked dove, and you can see a very distinctive dark ring running around the nape of the bird, and which it gets its new name from. Oh, look at that, beautiful Namakwa. And once again, with that black facial marking and black bib, that is a male coming down for a little drink. Nice orangey beak. Very lovely bird to see. You'll see when the bird takes off, it's got this coppery sheen to the end of its wings. What's on the left there, Craig? In frame, go in the middle? What is that in the middle? Oh, they're corn crickets. There's just movement there at the water's edge. Those are two corn crickets moving away from the water's edge. You can see from their very bulbous bodies and then their very long legs. Wow. And you can see in the background, look how many there are. You can just see the movement in amongst that shrubby vegetation. It's only when you stop that you see the movement of these very abundant insects right now. And there are hundreds on Tswalu at the moment. Eating anything and everything. Oh, Craig, we got giraffe. Just hold on there, folks. We got giraffe here on the right over here. Let's just go forward for you, Craig. Just hold on there, folks. Got two giraffe just on the pan's edge over here. Is that alright? Sorry, there was a question there. How many giraffes, how many grasshopper species do we have on Tswalu? Ooh, I'm actually not too sure if it's been recorded of how many grasshopper or locust species we have on Tswalu. There'd be a few. I could definitely look through a reference or a field guide this evening and get us a general estimate on how many grasshopper locust species we have in this area. That'd be very nice, a very nice bit of knowledge. We should go around. So what I'll do is that I'll take out the field guide this evening and I'll go through it and I will note on how many different species we have here. Obviously Orthoptera is a very diverse group of insects and ecologically very, very important as well. Oh, it's going to go down for a drink. Or it's picking up a bone. Very, very awkward position for a giraffe, and obviously where a giraffe is at the highest risk to predation. When it's going for a drink or when it is resting and sitting down. Going for a drink. So there's a nice puddle there just behind the bank of this pan, and it must be a lot easier for that giraffe to get down to that source of water. Lovely light on them. Looks like a group of males, a little bachelor herd, all the guys hanging out together. Here we go again. Wow. How those front quarters are bending backwards. For the shoulder blades, it must be fairly uncomfortable for that animal. But it needs to get down there for a drink. Very beautiful scene now, the light just coming through there perfectly on the giraffe. Ruby, how hot does it get here in the midst of summer? Ruby, we can on average have days of 45 plus degrees Celsius. That's about 115, 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's back to back. We can have days now coming in February that we experience quite high temperatures. So the hottest period in South Africa in summer is actually in the January and February months. Everybody flocks to South Africa because of the hot summer, but the hottest period is actually in January and February. So yeah, 40, 45 degrees Celsius back to back, day to day. I think I've experienced nearly 50 degrees Celsius here in Tswalu, which is fairly warm. And so when we go out for game drive, we only leave the lodge at about 5:30 in the afternoon. And then we utilize that cooler part of the evening, and then going into sunset, and then obviously into the nocturnal period, where we getting the best of both worlds. Animals moving around through the cooler period, but then also we have the chance at seeing some nocturnal animals coming out under the cover of darkness. And in winter it's been recorded down to -10. Very chilly. And where myself and my partner have been discussing, we think it's going to be a very cold winter this year, because there's a lot of moisture locked up in the ground, and when your temperature drops, the environment will then be colder because of the moisture locked within the earth. Oh, we might have a bit of sparring here. Huh? It's got an itch. So being in a group like this with young males, you have a sparring partner. This is a very important process that these young males would have to go through. Next person for the drink, next giraffe for a drink. Oh, Gabby, how much would a giraffe drink at one session? Oh, I think that would vary a bit. But if I can remember correctly, about 15 liters a giraffe could drink. But yeah, they could vary depending on the individual, but I think on average, it was about 15 odd liters a giraffe would take in. And they can go quite a lengthy period without utilizing a body of water like this. But obviously when it is available, you're going to take and seize the opportunity. It's much easier getting your moisture from a body of water like this. Do they not get sore necks from all that bending? It's a very, very good observation. So they are designed in a very awkward manner, but going down like that for a drink, I don't think they get sore at all. I think it might be a little bit awkward. You feel a little bit of pressure from all the blood going to your head. But then I don't think they feel any discomfort or any pain from going down in that very awkward position for a late afternoon drink. But yeah, on average between 10 and 12 liters in an average day. But when it's very, very warm, a bull can drink up to about 30 odd liters a day. But that's a lot of water for. It is a very large animal. If you think about it, a giraffe, when you look at its general appearance, you don't think it weighs that much because of its very tall figure. But I mean, a big bull weighing at 1,000+ kilograms, it needs quite a lot of moisture. And if you think about 30 liters for 1,000 kilograms, it's not that much. They are just magnificent creatures. Busy browsing off a buffalo thorn. You guys had a nice introduction into how to extract the medical properties out of that beautiful tree. It's a very widely used tree for its medical and medicinal uses, but then also a lot of animals utilize it for its nourishment. So giraffe, you would have eland, kudu, and duiker feeding off the beautiful tree. You can just see from its very rounded appearance that it's a buffalo thorn from here. You can see that light is starting to drop now. It's basically just before the horizon. This pan sits in a bit of a depression here, and due west of us, the topography actually rises, because west of us there's the first dune running out west, and it's multiple dunes of that. And so you'll see that the sunlight is starting to diminish now, because the sun is just starting to touch the first dune west of us. Oh, it's still quite a way. It's the trees that are in the way. I think Craig's going to give us a quick view there. Abel, how far can a giraffe see? Their eyesight is great. I'm not 100% sure on exact distance of how far it'll be able to see, but I know from illustrations and literature that their eyesight is very good. And I've used giraffe countless times to lead on to predators. They've obviously got a height advantage, and with that, their eyesight is very good. And very curious. By nature, they are very curious animals. We're going to position this lovely vehicle, but for now, let's send you over to Tristan for a quick update.
We're still bumbling around. We've had no luck with those two lionesses on Tswalu Kalahari cut line. We drove up and down and round and nothing came out. And so I'm just slowly bumbling, kind of homeward bound, but with the intention to help Steve a little bit, see if we can't pick up his Nkumas. He's on the eastern side of the block. I'm on the western side of the block. I'm where the two lionesses came out or walked this morning. So I was thinking maybe the rest of the pride might get onto this road and start following it in that direction. But there's no sign of them doing so. There's no tracks to speak of, just the tracks for the two lionesses from this morning going southwards. So they must still be in there. I mean, it was a warm day, so it's going to have taken them a while. Only now will they starting to be stirring and starting to move around. I think they're going to come out, unfortunately, only when the drive is finished, which is sad. I know Steve was hoping to catch up with them, given that he tracked them this morning. that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. How lions are. I wouldn't know. It's not easy to track in IR at all. Tracking at night is one, not easy, and two, very dangerous, so we don't do it. When you're tracking during the day already, at the moment, it's very difficult to see what you're doing. So you're following tracks and you're getting much closer to animals than you probably would in the winter time, because the animals, you don't see them. The grass is so long, you get right up near where they are before you're actually able to visually see them or hear them. And at night, that's even less. And so all you're going to do is end up getting yourself into a bad spot. The animals at night also change demeanor completely. So lions and leopards are activated into more of a hunt mode in the nighttime. And so if you're walking along, they know that you're stumbling about, that you can't see them. It can trigger them to potentially try and grab you. So you've got to be very, 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 very careful walking around at night. It's not a clever thing to be out at night. So we don't do any tracking in the evenings. If you see tracks on the road, then you can follow them using your headlights of your car, and you can find animals that way. But if it goes off into the bush, you can forget it. There's no tracking. And IR, funny enough, in the bush itself, even if you had to put infrared vision on, it's actually really not useful at all, because IR reflects off the nearest surface. You can see my cap, how it's shining. So when you pan off into the bush, it reflects off the nearest bush that's near you. So you don't get penetration. Far more helpful to have thermal than it is to have infrared. Thermal sees past everything and picks up things that are behind objects if they're warm and are sticking through little branches or something like that. But infrared is really actually not that useful in an environment like this. So the answer to your question is no. Infrared is not useful, and no, we don't use it for tracking, and yes, it is very difficult. Right, so Steve is actually, I saw his lights now he's kind of south and east of where I am. So I'm going to send you across to him to see if he's had any luck while we give him a hand trying to find them this side.
Thank you, Tristan. Thank you for your offer of assistance as well. Tristan is on his way back. He is going to do a section of the area just to see if the lions have come out. And so far, everybody, they have not. But there's only so much of it we can cover at a given time. It's been one of those days where the lions have been lying very, very flat in the drainage line. And patience will pay off, I am sure. But I anticipated they wouldn't be doing much before 7. It's now quarter past 7, I think. So we're going to do one more loop. And if we find them, someone's driving that side. So that's somebody covering that loop for us, which is great. So we've driven around this loop a few times, so you'd expect to find tracks of them coming out on top of vehicle tracks. That's what we've been looking for. There were none earlier. Yes, Angie, the roads do get looked after from time to time. After quite a bit of rain, though, they're not in the best condition. But regular maintenance of roads is important to keep them from getting worse. You okay there, Theo? Theo's choking on an insect, I think. Especially where the water's been allowed to run, where it's broken a mitre drain. It causes a lot of damage. The power of water is immense. So this stream that we parked at, listen to it rumble. The lions are just downstream of this. What did you want, sorry? So just downstream of us, yeah? I'm not even sure if they would cross, because right here where the road is, this is where the two lionesses that Tristan tracked crossed. It's often a bit easier at a road, but in the river itself, sometimes lions don't like to get their feet wet. So they might have gotten down to the water itself and gone back again. So that's what we're hoping for with this final loop around. But we're going to send you over to Tswalu Kalahari, who've got some wonderful children.
Well, what a great position and view we have here of these beautiful tall horses. And the young one wants to neck or spar with its older companion. And a great question was asked is, how far can a giraffe see? I'm really not sure the distance, but the eyesight is very, very good. And they probably can see in color. I think we should do like an eye test for a giraffe. Maybe make a board with a few letters, and I'll see how far the animal can see the letters from. Do a little eye test on it. Oh, got a visitor there, Craig. Yeah. Craig got a visitor there in his trousers. So the neck is fairly flexible. You can see how the animal is moving and chasing the flies away. It's fairly flexible. Thinking about the vertebrae and how big those vertebrae are. And they've got 7, the same amount as we have in our neck. Obviously just very, very large. So these are still fairly young bulls. You can see from their height. A bull will be fully grown at about the age of 7. That's the age at which it reaches its mature height. Some of these are about a year, maybe a little bit more than a year. When they're at about 3 meters, they're at about a year of age. Taking into account when they do come out, when they come into this big, beautiful blue world, that they're about a meter, 1.2 meters, and weighing at about 100 odd kilograms. And that is a lot of weight on the mother itself, the female. So late afternoon browsing. Oh, here's another one on the side here, Craig watching us. Oh, we're watching the giraffe on the left. The one on the right is busy watching us. It is, Nikia. It is a very beautiful scene with that sun and that silhouette. It is lovely. See, this is a bit of an old individual here from his sheer height. About 5.5 meters a bull would reach total height when he is about 7 odd years of age. Look. And you could see while he was busy browsing there, he was extending his neck. Bulls tend to do that, is feed at full extension, and they like and really want to get up to the very tippy tops of these trees, whereas in females really don't mind. They kind of browse on a very even level, but a male, a bull, he wants to try and get right to the top of the crown of these trees. Oh, and he's getting stuck in there. So that elongated skull structure, enabling the animal to get into the bush itself. Long eyelashes, uses a sensory gauge, and then lots and lots of tiny little hairs around the mouth that obviously allow the animal to feel nimbly where those juicy bits are. They are very selective and very fussy feeders. Highly selective, actually. And obviously the tree does have its own defenses. But that obviously takes a little bit of time for a tree. It's not instantaneously in response to the browse or a threat. It takes a bit of time. You can hear in the background how the tempo of those bubbling casinos have now increased. It's gotten a little bit darker and they have increased in tempo, singing a lot quicker. Gabby, do females use their ossicones? No, not like males use them. In form of defense, if they had to try and defend themselves, they will use their hooves. Their hooves are extremely big and they can give quite a hefty kick. It's the only hooved ungulate that can kick in all directions. So if you look at most hooved ungulates, they can only kick backwards with their hind legs, whereas a giraffe can lash its forearms or its forelegs outwards towards a predator or a threat. So no, the females will not use the ossicones. It's just the males that use them for combat. That high-pitched insect noise you guys can hear, that's the sound produced by those armored ground crickets. And that sound is being produced from remnants of its redundant wings. So there's a cover that obviously covers the midsection of the insect, and then towards the back end, just underneath the cover, they've got muscles that obviously fluctuate and beat little plates, producing that sound. Laying in bed at night and then listening to the various insects and crickets at night is really, really nice. Gabby, at what age does a giraffe leave its mother? So the mother, when she is pregnant, she's pregnant for about 16 months, she won't be in the herd when she gives birth. What she'll do is she'll actually go to a spot where she has previously given birth, and females have multiple birthing places within their home range. She could go to the same spot to give birth, or she could go to one of the other spots that she knows and she feels the safest. And then when she gives born to this little one, you're looking at about the interval between births is about 16 to 18 months. But in the period, when she does go back after a couple of weeks, once the little one has been born, she'll remain hidden for a couple of weeks, and then from there she'll take the little one towards a herd. They have very loose association with each other. There's no long-lasting bonds with giraffe. It's something that we refer to as temporary association. So they have a very loose social structure. They kind of just come and go as they want to. And then when she introduces this little one to the herd, this little one, in its very, very early ages, maybe a month or two, will start creating very, very strong bonds with other individuals within the herd at a similar height or age. And they actually form a very, very strong creche bond with other individuals. So I'm actually not 100% sure if there's a specific period, but these little groups will kind of stay with each other, and the bond is so strong that it is stronger than with its own mother, stronger than its own mother, yeah. But a couple of months and then they will break away as a group. And just like you're seeing these bulls more than likely come from the same herd, and they've more than likely broke away together.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, 2 to go. How cool is this?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a WildEarth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite bird has to be the social weaver. The enormous nest that they create, their survival tactics to inhabit these harsh and unforgiving environments, and as well as their complex social arrangements, is truly remarkable. And the interconnectedness with the ecosystem shows us that we are too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Can you see him there? All right, sorry, my train of thought got totally disrupted there on the previous little segment we did. So within these little groupings, you'd find that males would break away from these groups at about 3 years of age, and they'd break away as a group together. Let me just reposition for us, really, so we can see him nicely. And then when they get a bit older, at about 8, then they break off and form. And they adopt a more solitary form of life. Here we go. Is that enough there, Craig? So I hope that answers your question. So about 3 years of age, they'll break away from the group, and then at 8, they go onto a solitary form of life. So you can see these individuals here are still fairly young. Oh, how beautiful. It's going to go forward a little bit. It's going to go forward a little bit, guys. Sorry about that. It's been absolutely incredible being on a drive with you folks this afternoon. And how beautiful to end the show like this. So be sure to join us tomorrow for our sunrise safari. Jump back on board with us and ask us more questions. For all the questions that did come through today, thank you so much for all of that.